Doug. Mind if I sit next to you?
Mind? Yeah. Sure.
Thanks, Doug.
At that moment, I was the happiest guy in the entire Tri-County area.
I can't wait till we get going.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society.
Oh, joy!
Let's rock.
It makes me wanna fart!
Dear Journal, it's me, Doug.
You have it!
Dig it.
Baby's gotta do what a baby's gotta do.
That was a hoot!
On your mark. Get set.
Oh, here it goes!
Welcome to Splat Attack, where we're taking it back to the slime-filled past. I'm your Gaktastic co-host, Brett.
And I am your slime-tastic host, Alex. And Brett, I see somebody there with you. Who is that?
Yeah, it's Valentine's Day, so we had to bring our significant others. So today we have two very, very special guests who are near and dear to our hearts. This is my girlfriend, Monica. Hi. She's Team Gakoid, as you can see. We got matching shirts, so you know who's who.
Hi, everyone.
Oh, hi. There's somebody else here.
Who do you have next to you?
Boyfriend, girlfriend over there, and then husband, wife over here. And
Who doesn't have a Slimester shirt to wear? So
yeah, team nomad.
Hey, I haven't got a shirt yet.
This is my lovely wife, Megan, and had to drag her over here. No, I didn't. Actually, for a while, Megan has been very excited to do this, and she was looking for an excuse to come in. So
I've been very busy. I haven't had time.
Yeah. Well, we've had every time I've had to do something, you've had to watch the kids. So it's been pretty crazy.
I've been acting.
Yes, you have been acting. You've been in plays.
I've been very busy.
So what are we going to be talking about today?
Yes, well, it's Valentine's Day after all, and that means that there's love in the air, and to celebrate this passion-induced holiday, chock full of candy and sweet nothings written on cards. Both of us decide to invite our significant others on a journey through the tunnel of love as we float back to the past to unearth some of our favorite romantic moments of the 90s. So this means not just 90s Nickelodeon, but anything in the 90s that really comes to mind for us.
And it's not just movies and TV shows, but even some songs as well. Anything that sparks romanticism. Shall we reenact the AMC theaters?
Sure.
Very nice, very nice.
Every time we go to the
we did that insane
opening before the movie thing. There's always the couple that's always lovey-dovey with each other, and I'm like, oh, honey.
Very sweet. Well, definitely love's in there today, and we're excited to see what we have going on with our favorite lists. And just to be clear, for all you Slimesters and Gakoids out there who are listening to this bonus episode on Patreon, thank you very much, first of all.
Thank you.
And second of all, the way favorites go is that we don't do top fives with them. We don't do rankings with them. It's pretty much just rattling off, in no particular order, specific memories that we remember from childhood. So that's what we're going to do. It's very similar to our Christmas episode where we talked about favorite 90s holiday specials. So you're in for a fun treat. And if you hear something you like, awesome. If not, definitely write to us and let us know what you think with your own suggestions.
And a lot of times, and I've seen this from other content creators as well, they're just we're pulling straight from memory. So there might be something that we've completely forgotten about, and oh crap, yeah, that is much better. So it's just the top 5 most memorable things to each of us at this given moment.
Right. Yeah. And I have to say, Alex, this was a pretty hard list to put together. Like a couple of weeks ago when I first started the notes for this episode, I was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to put my first impression on here. No problem. Easy peasy. I was editing this thing up until 5 minutes before we got on Zoom. Because I kept thinking of new ones that came to mind that like, oh, this one's better. Oh, this one made me cry. Oh, this one's more emotionally heart-wrenching. So, I just had to put it on there and then knock a few others out. So, some that you might end up seeing on here may surprise you. And unfortunately, some of them had to get demoted to honorable mention and some of them just got eliminated altogether. But I think they're all good picks overall. We'll see what the audience says.
That's right.
First off, I have a classic from season 1, episode 2 of The Adventures of Pete and Pete. It is the episode The Day of the Dot. And why this one stood out to me is for those who are Pete and Pete fans, or those who tuned in for early 90s Nickelodeon, this was the episode where Big Pete and Ellen first kiss. And that happened after, there's that whole plot going on with the fighting squids in the band who had to like spell out squid with their bodies on the football field for band practice. And she was like the dot of the I in the squid. So she had the most important role because she had to orient herself no matter where the words went on the football field. And somehow that created like some tension between Big Pete and her, because there's this like pretty boy blonde guy who's named by James Markle Jr., I believe, or something along those lines. And he was like trying to put the moves on her because he was like at the top of the I next to the dot. And Big Pete was like, get away from my friend who's a girl, because they're on again, off again. We don't really know what they're really doing there. And I just remember, after bus driver Stu took all the kids through the misery tour of his lamenting over Sally Knorp, who, by the way, was Ellen Cleghorn from Saturday Night Live fame. It was just a really satisfying, heartwarming moment. I didn't even care about, all the history behind Big Pete and Ellen's relationship in this moment. It's pretty much, they had the fighting squid formation where it's like a circle with a bunch of like tendrils sticking out on the football field. And then they got to a point where like the announcer on the football field was like commentating on them looking at each other and then coming together in the center and then, dropping their instruments and going in for a hug and then like a big smooch. And there's like music swelling up and Big Pete put on his cool purple shade and it's like, love is a many splendored thing. Oh yeah.
Oops. Somebody pinch me. I believe they're going to attempt a thermonuclear fusion, a force that powers the stars.
Pete. Ellen. Don't do this. He's destroying everything we've built together.
There appears to be 2 heavy hydrogen atoms moving closer together. They're reaching a state of hot plasma, ladies and gentlemen. Please stay in your seats.
Burn, baby, burn!
Ellen?
You don't have to say, Pete. I know.
We have fusion!
I remember that.
Yeah, it was a very beautiful moment. And I just, that stuck out in my mind to me, even though Day of the Dot isn't necessarily a well-remembered episode. So that's my first pick.
Let's not forget the real undersung hero of this, Artie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was a funk magnet in this. Funk.
By the time Artie began dancing the Voodoo Crispy, Markle's spell was broken. When I saw Ellen laugh, I knew everything was going to be all right.
He's busting a move to Ohio Players' Love Roller Coaster, which is very appropriate for this episode as well because it's romance themed. And man, I'm surprised he doesn't have a significant other. I'd love to see a female version of Artie just coming up to him.
Wow, that would be really crazy.
Artie should have been in Mystery Men.
Right? He would have been a great hero. Like,
I'm trying to think of the female counterpart, but I can't think of one.
Artina.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, Monica, what is your number 5 pick?
All right. So my number 5 pick. Growing up, I loved watching TGIF every Friday from 8 to 10 p.m. I was on the East Coast. I would watch, the lineup. It changed, but I remember watching Boy Meets World. And there, of course, for those who watch Boy Meets World, the main love story is Corey and Topanga.
No, it's not. Corey and Sean.
Sorry?
No, it's not. It's Corey and Sean.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, some people could argue that, sure.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But they were friends, they knew each other all their lives. They were friends. And of course they were 16 years old when Topanga's family had to move away to Pittsburgh. And this episode is and I have to look at my notes because I can't remember off the top of my head. Season 4, episode 17, A Long Walk to Pittsburgh. So this is when Topanga's family moves away to Pittsburgh, and they live in Philadelphia, or used to live in Philadelphia. And it's that scene where like Corey's like all heartbroken, and finally he gets over her and he's like, you know what? No, I'm not going to go to Pittsburgh. I'm not going to be an idiot who shows up and she rejects me. And he opens the door and she's standing there like soaking in the rain. And she's like, Corey, I ran away from my home to like follow you. And I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, that definitely like stuck out to me because it was one of those moments where it's like, she ran away from home and,
that's a long way to run.
Yeah, exactly. And she's 16 years old too. And like, both the parents were like, you guys are too young, you don't know what love is. And they're like, no, you don't know us. We're going to live forever. And, so.
They made a lot of parallels to Romeo and Juliet too, which I thought was a nice touch because then Mr. Feeney came in there with some wise wisdom for Corey.
Mr. Matthews, Miss Lawrence. No, this isn't the classroom, Mr. Matthews, as you were. Even though this isn't the classroom at the moment, would you mind if I taught you a lesson anyway?
Please.
Believe it or not, there was a time in my life when I cared for someone as deeply as you two care for each other now.
You believe we love each other?
And for no reason I understood, my wife was taken from me, and I haven't been so deeply in love since.
Feeney believes we love each other.
I believe that when you find love, you hold on to it and cherish it, because there is nothing finer, and it may never come again. And that, my dears, is the most important thing that I could teach you.
So definitely an episode that stuck out to me, for sure.
And something I think the show really, especially moments like that, really benefits from is audience reaction. Because the moment Corey opened that door, we the audience that watching from home was like, oh, that's so awesome. But then to hear what we're feeling audibly through the television from the audience perspective, it just makes it that much more palpable.
Definitely. Yeah, it reinforces the feelings, which makes it all the stronger.
Something that's cooler with their relationship is that a lot of I relate with their relationship because you and I actually grew up as friends in church, and we were always just friends. He was just the annoying kid. I swore I could not believe anyone who would dare to marry him because he was so crazy acting, and he never was calm. And then all of a sudden it just changed my mind. But they kind of started off as friends, and then it slowly built into a relationship, and then they got married young, which also Alex and I got married young as well. And they still were married to this day, according to Girl Meets World. So
you said I'm annoying? How dare you?
I mean, we all have an annoying streak.
They don't have to live with you, so they don't see what I go
Oh no,
through.
there's an annoying streak. I have not broken it since.
We should get an award for that then.
But yes, I do love that it goes to show that there are good relationships out there that can withstand even distance, and obviously Corey and Topanga really showed that. So definitely love that episode as well.
Awesome.
And especially in preteen and teenage relationships and television, most of them don't stay.
No.
And this was a really good one. It wasn't just an on again, off again. It was it's a matter of time. Here it is. And then it stuck with through pretty much the entire run. I think it's the only relationship where it was such a big deal when the characters got married. At the end of one of the episodes, they invited the audience to come to their quote unquote wedding.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're quite the role models, huh? For 90s kids marrying each other and all.
They really were. They really were.
Yes.
Now, if we could just get Arnold and Helga together, then everyone would be happy with the 90s Nick community. Jeez, come on, it's been forever.
Brett is still holding his breath.
All righty. Well, so mine is a bit different and also very much the damsel in distress type thing, but I have always been a very protective individual, and I've always been of the mindset that the husband should be there to protect the wife as much as possible. I know that there are others who don't need that or want that, and that's okay. That's just the way I was raised, and that's something I believe firmly in. And like it or hate it, 90s had a lot of damsel in distress moments, but there was one in particular when I was 5 that really stood out to me and I thought was really, really cool. And it was from An American Tail, Fievel Goes West.
Oh.
And Tiger, who is the biggest pussycat ever, the dude was a constant coward at all times, both in the first movie and the second movie. But in part 2, he had a love interest in Miss Kitty, and at the very beginning of the movie they split ways, but he just pines for her and loves her, and the whole movie she's wanting him to, she says, why can't you be more like a dog? But really it's, get some backbone, don't be such a pussycat.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, when Fievel and Wiley Burp and Tiger are having a showdown with the villains of the movie, and the entire movie, Tiger trying to find his courage but can't, Miss Kitty becomes in danger. And then he loses his mind and actually barks like a dog. And I remember when I saw that in the theater, I cackled. It was one of those gleeful, oh, he's gonna get him. And for the first time, I think I ever rooted for a side character and not the main character. And watching him just beat down everyone to save the person that he loves. And then for her to be all, oh, that's so awesome, and happy that she's got what she wants. I thought that was so cool as a 5-year-old, and now I'm 36, and whenever I still think of romantic, even though that wasn't a romantic moment, it still was a romantic gesture of protecting someone that you love. I think that was the first instance that I really recall seeing something like that, and I really, really love that moment.
Yeah, it's a great character building moment for Tiger. And I haven't even seen that since it was like a VHS tape at my grandmother's house, but I remember loving it and loving his character. He's like a great big ball of fuzz. And
yeah,
I think he ends up getting the cowboy suit on at the end and like
yes,
just starts becoming a man essentially. So yeah, that's a great moment to pick. I didn't even think of that until you said it.
I've actually never seen the whole movie through.
The most macho Dom DeLuise has ever been.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, he did the voice.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I love the first one, but I love the second one more than the first one because that was actually the first one I saw.
Yeah, the first one's a little more traditional with like the whole immigration theme, but with the Wild West one, it allows them more room to have some fun with the story.
All right, Megan, which one are you going to go with for your number 5 pick?
The number 5 pick is probably going to be from it's going to be from one of my favorite rom-com movies from the 90s. Just barely made the cut because I believe it came out in 99. But it's from Never Been Kissed. I probably have watched that movie on repeat, but it is the final scene in the movie whenever Josie is on the ball field and making the declaration to the teacher, although technically she's old enough to date him because she's not a student, but and asks him to come and kiss her for the first time because she has actually never been kissed her entire life. She was a nerd in school.
That's the name of the movie.
Title drop.
But the moment he comes running down those stairs of the outside there in the bleachers, and the whole crowd just goes nuts, and he gets there and he kisses her and he tells her he was sorry he was late, that took him forever to get there, and she said, I know what you mean, because it's such a big moment for her, and it's probably one of my favorite moments in the whole movie, and I love the song that they're playing because my mom grew up listening to that song. And
what song was it?
I can't think of the name. Don't ask me the name.
What was the name of the song?
And I'm not gonna sing it.
Here. Let's do this then. What was the song at the end? I've never been kissed.
It's an older song.
Erase Rewind by the Cardigans.
Oh, nice pick. I know that one.
Okay, so
there, done. Thank you, Google.
Yay, thanks, Google. But yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite moments from the movie.
Moments.
Anyway, what I was gonna say was,
yes,
I was trying to say, but you keep rudely interrupting me. But
moments.
For the character with Josie, I kind of could relate a little bit to her. I mean, I wasn't really a nerd in school, but I wasn't always the girl that got a lot of the guys. I mean, I was kind of, I'm like I am now. I'm a little bit more heavier set, so I wasn't as attractive to most guys. So I kind of felt, and I understood how she felt. She focused on school and her friends that she had, but thankfully I was never pranked like she was and got egged in the movie. But I felt for her. I felt I could relate to her in a way, but I'm glad she was able to get the moment she deserved there at the moment in the movie. And I thought him coming down and running out there, it was just one of my favorite moments.
Yeah, it's a great pick. I remember seeing that movie growing up too. And aside from the scene where like the jockeys eating the banana when they were learning sex ed stuff.
Oh yeah, Molly Shannon played her friend and filled in as the sex ed teacher.
Yep, yeah, good times. But yeah, I remember that being a very pivotal role for Drew Barrymore at the time.
Yes,
just like very, very serious, and the whole idea of her as an undercover reporter actually like getting some resolution with some trauma of her past was very gratifying once she was, she got through all of that with the dance and then got to, kiss the one she wanted to on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Some similarities to my Pete and Pete pick too there at the end.
You know who else was an undercover reporter? Corey and Sean. They had to dress in drag.
When was that?
Yeah, that really happened.
Yeah.
There was an episode where they were having to see what it was like to be in girl shoes for an episode.
Yeah, I remember Sean was a pretty attractive girl too.
Yeah,
like the wig
Corey not so much.
Yeah, Corey not so much, but yeah, Sean, I was like, oh, okay.
Corey's interpretation was hysterical.
I don't know what it is. I'm like genuinely embarrassed sometimes, like when I see guys trying to dress up in girls' clothing and they're uncomfortable, and I don't know what it is. But you think I'd be used to it because we have so many friends in our theater group who do drag. So it's like, you think I could just handle it. And I've seen Rocky Horror so many times. I've seen so many people in stilettos and fishnets. So you'd think I'd be used to it, but I don't know. Something about that episode always just kind of made me go, oh my gosh.
I mean, if that throws you off, if you've seen Power Rangers, Bulk and Skull dress up as French maids in one episode. Also undercover. Might have to do an episode review of that later this year.
Yeah. That sounded like my laugh yesterday on my
That's a good skull laugh.
All right, Brad, back to you, my friend.
Yes. So for my second favorite romantic moment, this was a really, really tough one to pick for this particular show because this show is chock full of romantic moments, particularly between these two main characters that everyone's kind of familiar with. We live in Bluffington. But at the end of the day, I settled on this one because it was one of those first moments that really stuck with you, especially if you were a fan of the show since the very beginning. So I didn't go for the popular pick. I went for the more deeper cut with this. And it's when Doug and Patty first hold hands on the Great Tornado Ferris wheel in the episode Doug's Fair Lady, season 1, episode 13A. And what can I say about that? I mean, Doug was just a great big ball of nerves up until that point. Like he even needed Skeeter and Porkchop to coach him while he was like talking on the phone to Patty, imagining the worst case scenario where she's like this rich debonair mistress who had all these boys tending to her every need, including like pouring root beer for her. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't remember a Doug. But when he finally got through to her and said, oh, this is like a group thing, it's not as bad, we're all going to be there, come join us, please, he managed to get her to the fair there. And after playing a few carnival games, he finally lucked out, and they got to go on the Great Tornado together, apparently the world's fastest Ferris wheel, which I don't know how nauseous I'd feel after going on that, but it sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Doug's big smile when his face lights up when Patty sits with him. I love when like they hold hands after they get out, and she's like, here, Doug, I'll give you a hand, because they're like both dizzy from the ride. And then he's like, oh, I'm never gonna wash this hand again, as he's writing in his journal. And then Porkchop drops like pink ice cream into it. Well, so much for that. It's just a great tender moment, very innocent, and it makes you want to root for the both of them for the rest of the series. So that's why I picked it.
And I absolutely love the love theme every single time they play. Oh!
Yeah, exactly.
Heart song.
Yep. How do you do that? I haven't figured out how to produce hearts for my head whenever I'm like staring longingly at her. Do I need to take
all
some?
Relate to Doug in this episode. We all can relate to Doug because we all had that moment with somebody.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm never gonna wash this hand again, or I'm never gonna wash this face again.
I'm never gonna wash this thermos again.
I have not.
You touched it.
So my next pick, it comes from season 1, episode 13A of Rocko's Modern Life. It's called Clean Lovin'. And this particular episode, it stood out to me when I was a kid, because, I love animals. Spoiler alert, I grew up and I became a veterinarian. So, obviously I love animals. And, in this episode, Spunky falls in love with a mop. And after he's been like watching some kind of like romantic movie with Rocko, like he kind of, sees what's happening in the romantic movie. And then he looks back at the mop and he thinks it's like, the world's kind of collided.
Yeah, because they're doing the same movements on the show that Rocco's doing with the mop. So he's making like the mental connection and said like, ooh, that's a girl.
And, the episode kind of stood out to me because, in this episode, you kind of see Spunky going through so many emotions. Usually he's kind of like a
supporting role on the sidelines.
Kind of like a fun-loving doofus, kind of, goofy dog.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was really cute to me back then. It actually stood out to me now because I have a dog. His name is not Spunky, but just like Spunky, he actually is in love with this towel. Like, he goes crazy. Like every time it rains and I have to like dry him off when he comes in, anytime I bring out that towel, he will just go nuts. Like he'll like do circles. He'll like rub his head up against like the towel. Like he'll go crazy. And the episode kind of stands out to me, and I love it. It's goofy, it's funny, it's sweet, and it's actually kind of heartbreaking whenever who was it, like the psychologist?
Yeah, the psychiatrist, he like separates Spunky from the mop because he needs to have a word with the mop, because apparently Spunky's normal, but he just takes the mop for himself and takes the mop out to dinner. And I'm like, come on, man, you're a grown man, don't pull that kind of crap.
Right.
Spunky can get away with it. He's a cute little lovable dog. You're just a old creep who can't get some.
Yeah. Falling in love with the fire hydrant.
Yeah, spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Just the mop was too dainty for his taste.
Yeah.
But,
So yeah, that's one of my picks. With all my picks, I don't have them ranked or anything, so there's no specific order. But yeah.
Yeah, we keep saying your fourth pick, but it's just keeping track of where we're at in the countdown.
Yeah.
There really is no in particular order. My number 4 pick is from season 3, episode 20 of Home Improvement.
Sorry, obligatory.
I
like
love
a twitch
that
I
show.
have.
I love that show. I loved it as a kid. I love it as an adult. It will forever have a special place in my heart. And this episode was called the best of Tim's, the worst of Tim's. But the romantic moment, you have to talk about the lead up to it. And Jill was hosting a baby shower at the house. And of course, Tim, being the man's man, who's all about football and beer and working on a hot rod in the garage, I don't want to do these little girly, frilly things. But she's like, come on, they know you. They want to see you. Come say hi. So Tim, being the husband he is and listening to his wife for once, he does stop by and they pull him in and they start asking him some advice about what's it like to have a baby. And he gives genuinely good advice. And then they make a few comments and he makes a fun, quick retort that they all laugh at. I mean, he was on his A game and it really surprised Jill. So when Tim walks away, all the ladies are, Jill, your husband is so funny and so charming. And Jill was like, yeah, he really is. So that night she's wanting to cash in on some of that charm and it's all gone. It's Tim being full on Tim. He's gross. He's passing gas. He's had a Philly cheesesteak. They get it.
Oh my God, sounds like my
Yeah,
father.
yes. They get in the bed and
Sorry, Dad.
she's dressed very nicely and she gets in the bed and he's like, oh, wait a minute. The Philly's backing up. And oh, there it goes. And then starts fanning the covers.
Wow, this really is a life of us.
Yes. Welcome to
I thought this was Home Improvement, not Married with Children. I'm expecting a toilet flush any moment.
So where does the romantic moment come in? Well, after a powwow with Wilson, and if you can be on this be charming with the person who matters most to you. And he realized, crap, I messed up again, like I do every episode. And he comes into the bedroom wearing his mechanic jumpsuit that's all covered in grease and tells her how much he appreciates her and loves her. And I should be on my A game for you. And she said, that's all I ask, just be there for me like you've been for some of my friends. And he said, I can do that. And then he says, I also have a few tricks up my sleeve, and grabs his jumpsuit and pulls the sleeve off and then pulls off the second sleeve and then pulls the rest off to reveal a tuxedo underneath his suit. And then, of course, the fan I am, he sticks his hand inside of his breast pocket and goes, Bond, James Bond. But he did that just to make an impression on her, to push it just that much farther.
Do you remember when I asked you to marry me? I was so nervous my hands were as sweaty as toilets.
Why were you nervous?
Well, I was afraid that you'd say no and I had to spend the rest of my life without you. I knew I couldn't return that ring.
You still make me laugh.
That's good. This is the best 15 years I've ever had. A little gift for you. Stay right there.
You still have some charm left.
I still have some tricks up my sleeve.
Whoa!
Bond, James Bond.
I wish that I had a beautiful gown on underneath my robe.
What do you have on her there?
Nothing.
Oh. That's better than your gown.
And even though I was a kid when that came out, and I also had no idea who James Bond was at that time, even I was taken by that moment. It's like, that's a really cool thing to do for someone that you love. And it's just going a little bit farther than just buying flowers and
Right.
candy. It's really taking their thoughts. If you can be this way for other people, you should do more so for the person that you love. And
Yeah.
that moment has always stuck with me through, not necessarily for the comedy, but for the genuine sincerity of it.
As it should. It's a unique, authentic gesture, and for a character like him to, kind of push away all the normal mannerisms. So to speak. I think it's a great moment for Tim to like remind us that he loves his wife, and that's why they have so many great kids together in the episode, even if they're a little goofy.
Next.
Well, I'm gonna stick with TV as well, since you guys did episodes from a TV show. I'm gonna actually pull from my favorite TV show of all time, Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Oh.
Yes, big Buffy fan. This is going to be season 2, episode 13, which is titled Surprise. Season 2 really was focusing on the huge love story between Buffy and Angel. The part I'm kind of referring to is whenever Angel is having to take this part of a demon to ship it off somewhere so that this demon can't get assembled because it can destroy the world, apparently.
So romantic.
And Angel gets assigned to take it overseas so he can get on a ship and get rid of it. And no.
Oh.
So him and Buffy are having to separate for a while, and she goes with him to the dock, and it's also her birthday in this episode. And
wasn't it Valentine's Day on the episode?
No, her birthday's in January.
Okay.
Thank you. I know. I'm a nerd.
Close enough.
I was like, I remember.
1 month removed.
I knew that.
I remember there was some significance of the date.
Now, the Valentine's episode I didn't want to talk about because there's a lot of emotion going on in that episode, but it's another different story from that one.
Yeah.
But in this particular scene, Angel gives Buffy a gift for her birthday, and it's a ring, and it was actually passed down in generations through his family because he is from Ireland. And he tells her that it's got different symbols on it, and it's got hands on it for friendship, and I think a crown on top for loyalty, and then it's got a heart in the middle for love. And he gives it to her, and he tells her he loves her for the first time, and he tells her if she wears the heart pointing towards her, it means you belong to someone. So Alex did surprise me one year for birthday, maybe. And I have a replica of the ring.
Ooh, pretty. Very nice.
So I was like, I'm not good at pointing.
There we go.
But that part of the episode was one of my favorite scenes between the two of them, because one, I really thought Sarah Michelle Gellar and David Boreanaz had great chemistry together on the screen. They had a very good friendship off screen, and always had fun. But when they were on screen together, you believed their relationship. You believed the love between them. And one, that's great acting for that. But two, I just, you don't see a lot of that. And there's never been anyone that's come into her life that's been like Angel to her. There was a different kind of relation. I don't know, the relationship was different than it was with her and Spike as it got later in the seasons. There was a huge difference. But there's, that was like, that's her first love, and no one's ever been able to kind of come between that. But that's one of my favorite episodes from that season. Season 2 is actually my favorite season. A lot happens during that season too, but
that was late 90s. The late 90s.
19,
but still.
That was actually 1998.
But still qualifies.
It's still 90s. That show stood out to me. I watched it, when it came on TV. And then I lost track with it. And then I got reunited with the show when I was in college because of a college professor who had us do a paper on an episode in season 4. And so I got connected back with the show and completely fell in love with it all over again. And it's been my all-time favorite show ever since. My goal is I would love to eventually meet Sarah Michelle Gellar, but I've only met some kind of minor characters. I've met Felicia Day, but I haven't met any of the main cast yet, so that's my goal.
Emphasis on yet.
On yet.
Yeah, keep working up to it. You'll get there.
I mean, we've already gotten there with Supernatural, so now I'm wanting to go to other cons and hopefully
there you go.
See some of the actors from it. So, but yeah.
Very cool. Love the story behind your pick.
Yeah. Yeah, considering I've never really watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer growing up. I think it was a show on, WB.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It came
and yeah, I think it was just, it kind of went over my head. But I heard it was really good show. So I guess one of these days I got to add it to my list.
Yeah, I haven't watched it since high school myself. I remember my friend Josh at the time really got me into it because he got sucked into it. And I don't know what happened, but I was focusing so hard on the episodes and trying to keep track of all the characters, but it was just like, I don't remember anything from it other than Sarah Michelle Gellar and Angel and Demons on occasion and them talking a lot. So I think we'll definitely have to refresh our memory after hearing about that, because it sounds like it has some great poignant moments to it that really rope you in.
Yeah. Well, in the spinoff series, Angel, when he got his own spinoff series, is just as equally as good. I'm really kind of sucked that it got canceled after season 5, and they even ended it on a cliffhanger, but they did bring it back through graphic novels. So fans are finally like, oh thank God, this is what happened to them. So
yeah, it keeps going.
There's a big apocalypse going on in the end of it, so it was like, oh, what's gonna happen? Oh, that's great, thanks network. But yeah, and considering everything that's going on today with the accusations with Joss Whedon, it's kind of heartbreaking, but I still appreciate art, and I still appreciate the work that he put into the show, because he is talented and he deserves to be recognized for the talent that he has. But I am sad to hear of things that have been brought out from some of the cast members. So and I hate that, because it was such an empowering moment for them.
But just like how Ren and Stimpy is an awesome show.
I was just thinking Ren and Stimpy.
How creepy John Kay is. Buffy is still a great show.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob Camp was the showrunner afterwards, and he was his right-hand man, and he still did a great job with the remaining 3 seasons. So that's not to be disregarded either. And he still does great stuff for Ren and Stimpy these days too. Keeping the art active on Instagram and whatnot. So yeah, I think a lot of people just need to be reminded. Sometimes it's important to separate the art from the artist so that you can get the emotional values from the art itself without thinking too much or getting too bogged down by some of the lesser noteworthy kind of taboo things that are associated with the background of the creation of such shows or moments.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go.
All right, Brett.
All right, going back a third time. Oh boy, I changed this one a lot. This is one of the ones I added like 5 minutes before this episode, just because it suddenly dawned on me, and I'm like, how did I forget this one? I gotta put it on here. Okay, what's getting knocked off? And I finally had to do it because Simpsons is a big part of my life, and they do have many heartwarming moments, especially in the earlier seasons. So, I saw this very, very young as a kid, like when it first aired. I remember watching Simpsons on my Aunt Joan's TV when she was still alive. She had like one of those little small TVs that sat on top of a wood counter, and you could only get like 13 channels with the rabbit ears and the dial on the side. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Anyways, when I saw this one and I heard like, a particular song that they like to repeat by the Carpenters called Close to You in it, I knew that this was something that would stay with me for a long time, and it has. I still watch it today. This is the Simpsons episode called The Way We Was from season 2, episode 12. And this is essentially Marge and Homer's origin story of how they got together. You know, their TV gets busted, speaking of TVs, and they're forced to like tell a story to their kids about, you know, something to entertain them for a half hour. So they think about, oh, how do we meet, honey? And then we go back to the 70s where we see both Homer and Marge in their teens. They actually came from different worlds. Like Marge was on the debate team and Homer was kind of the slacker who hung out with Barney, smoked, drunk, got in trouble, didn't really care about life. And then somehow, you know, through a twist of fate, they found each other through like detention because they both ended up there. And I think Marge ended up there because she was like protesting something and ended up burning a bra. And the principal, Don DeLinger, was like, you know where to go. But she's like, no, I've actually never had detention before. And he had to point out the directions for her. But that's where they met. And you know, even though Barney tried to swoop in and put the moves on her to try and ask her out to prom, Homer ultimately you know, got to go with her. But in a weird, unexpected twist, Artie Ziff, who's played by John Lovitz, he ended up going to the prom with her because Homer and Marge had this like a scuffle when he invited her over one night to like practice French for a test that he had to study, but then he stupidly revealed after she agreed to go to prom with him that it was just a setup to get her to like him, which, you know, dirty trick on his part, and he shouldn't have told her that, but he did have good intentions. So he ended up going to prom by himself, which is, you know, very sad and heartbreaking seeing him get a prom picture by himself, even though everyone else got like a picture of their date. And, you know, he ended up still riding in the limo by himself that he ordered for prom, and ended up walking home in the mud because he couldn't afford to keep him while everyone else was like making out point. But even though that sounds like he couldn't get any bit lower in terms of rock bottom with his luck, things started to turn around when Artie got a little bit too handsy with Marge, and she had second thoughts. So then she ended up driving back home, and, you know, she happened to see Homer on the side, you know, walking, and he thinks it's just someone who's honking at him. And he's like, all right, I'll walk in the mud if it makes you happy. And then the car stops and ends up being Marge. And, you know, he finally ends up giving her corsage that he got for her to like mend the part where Artie ripped her dress. And it was just very sweet that he ended up going in there. And the quote that really stuck with me all this time after all of that is, he's like, Marge, I have a problem. Once you stop this car, I'm going to love you and hug you and kiss you, and I'll never let you go. And then it cuts to present day where he's like, and I never did, and then kisses her. So that was a very sweet, sentimental moment for me, and one of my favorite Simpsons episodes because of it. Just like seeing how they got together through innocent high school love and making it last all these years later.
Yeah.
Homer turned into Elmira.
I'll hold you and squeeze you and never let you go.
Oh yeah, from Tiny Toons. I thought you meant Elvira, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, I know. I thought so too.
He doesn't dress like that.
Tiny Toons. So he came in and asked me. He was like, "Why is she like?
Why is she so loving?
Why is she so loving?" I was like, because she's a little girl and like thinks everything's adorable, so she just wants to hug everything.
Yeah,
I
have a bone to pick with her. I said that for a Tiny Toons episode.
Oh gosh.
And I don't think I've ever seen a Simpsons episode all the way through.
I have not either.
Really? Oh wow.
And it's one of those shows that I want to watch. There's so many other things I want to watch. I just never have the time to anymore. Yeah. But there's a reason that show is still going after all these years. But it's a well-balanced comedy with some heart and some action in it. So you can't go wrong there. And it's somehow relatable too, as like the American family who isn't exactly like model citizens, but they do their best. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, just trying their best, but falling short here and there, but still loving each other at the end of the day. Yep.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, if we watch Buffy, you should watch The Simpsons, and then we'll
A lot more seasons to go through with Simpsons, though.
Just watch the first 10.
Yeah, we'll be fine.
I would just stick through the 90s, the 80s and 90s versions.
Okay.
Yeah.
God.
So moving on, Monica, what do you got for your third pick?
All right. So for my third pick, and actually Brett can kind of chime in on this one because he was on another podcast. Oh, I mentioned another podcast.
What? It was Big Orange Couch.
And he went over this episode. It's Salute Your Shorts, Mail Carrier Mona. It's season 1, episode 12. So basically, like the 2-sentence synopsis is that Ugg gets dumped by a girl named Rachel. You know, he met her once, and I guess they were corresponding through mail. And you know, I guess she never got his letters. I don't know.
She wrote return to sender on them, so she got the letters, but she didn't want to keep getting them from him, which is like the ultimate gut punch. Yeah.
And so, you know, of course he's heartbroken because he thinks he's gonna like come visit her, and so he makes this plaque that says "You're my sweetheart," and he's waiting by the side of the road,
the wooden heart-shaped plaque,
and he's like holding it up, and every single car that drives by, he's like, okay, this is her, and then like
that dirty dude who looks like Bart from You Can't Do That on Television, it's like you were saying, he drives off.
Exactly. And so it was so heartbreaking seeing him on the side of the road, because you can see the progression from daytime to nighttime. And, you know, he's still like holding out hope for every single car that goes down this one lonely road.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, this is it. This is her. This is her. And like, he holds up the sign. And I think eventually, you know, the kids find the letter that Rachel wrote to him and basically said, you know, I found another stud muffin, like
named Dolph.
Named Dolph of all things.
From Costa Mesa.
Exactly. And you know, and she basically is like, all right, you're yesterday's news, goodbye. So they kind of have to break it to him. And then there's this a mail carrier woman named Mona, who's played by Christine Cavanaugh.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. These little details, I don't know. Like I usually just like
fly
good. By the seat of my pants.
No, I know
like,
them all.
Brett is the one that like knows every little detail. And I'm like, yeah, there was like this actress, and yeah, I mean, it was a great show.
Like that one chick.
How could you forget Christine Cavanaugh? She's my favorite voice actress of all time. She does Chucky, Dexter, Oblina. She was in Small Potatoes of X-Files. She did Mail Carrier Mona. She had a very long career and passed away in 2010. So there.
See, Alex, you and I are very similar.
Just listed her whole IMDb right there.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not that I look at it every day. I don't.
But basically, I mean, I love this episode because he basically rebounds with Mona, but you know, you see him go from like this super heartbroken guy to like, you know, all of a sudden he's back falling in love, and you know, he jumps into the lake to, you know, grab the what was it, like the sign that he was holding on the side of the road. Like after he was heartbroken and he was dumped and realized that Rachel wasn't coming, he throws this sign in the lake. And then like Mona would, I guess they had to come in by canoe.
It was like a motorboat of some sort, like a small rowboat with a motor on it, because she delivers the mail to Camp Anawana. And on her way out after their little encounter where Ugg essentially corrected Mona's back when she threw it out, basically, you know, he had this sudden inspiration to like, oh, there's the wooden sign. I got to do something with that. It's still there. Like that's a symbol of hope that, you know, not all is lost. So he dives into the water yet again for the second time in the episode, picks it up, hands it to Mona as he's like drenched in the lake. And she's like, oh, in the postal system of life, you're one first-class mail.
Well, this has really been special.
Yeah. So, you'll come back tomorrow?
As soon as I finish my new route, I'll drop by. Neither rain, nor sleet, nor dark of night could keep me away from you.
Quick, Fargo, North Dakota.
58102.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so sweet. And
Yeah.
you know, this is just the perfect union of two goofy geeks who think they don't deserve anyone, and in truth, they deserve each other. And she ends up returning as a park ranger in season 2 to see him yet again. So that just goes to show you that she was just as important to the show as like Zeke the plumber or even the kids.
And two things I wanted to add.
Please.
I loved when I think it was Budnick who was trying to get Ugg back into the game.
Yeah.
And so he had him dress all in a leather jacket and guitar, and here sing songs about it.
Yeah,
and
among many other outfits they tried out first.
and just when he strummed that guitar one time, it just screams out, Rachel!
Rachel!
Oh man.
You're the ham. Pest and mustard.
I
He
love
has
it.
this whole like Michael Jackson bad look on,
Yes.
Yeah, he
with
does.
the chains and the black leather.
It's play Ugg.
The other thing, and I'm sure Brett probably knows this, but Kirk Bailey, who played Ugg, permanently damaged his ear when he jumped into the water. For the second time in the episode.
Oh, yeah, I remember you telling me that.
He had said it in an interview for the book Slimed, but he had turned his head to the side instead of just diving like you're supposed to, and the impact of the water had permanently damaged his ear. He got out of the water and everybody was freaking out, and he didn't understand why. And then he noticed that he was bleeding from his ear, and then the effects started to take place. But that of everything, if it had been any other moment in the series, it would have been that much more of a gut punch. That, man, you took that hit for that moment. But that is a great moment.
It was worth it.
You laugh, but you laugh with glee at the same time. It's one of those very, very happy giggles. And I hate that it happened, but it really translates for the audience that will be eternal for Salute Your Shorts fans.
Yeah. It really cemented their relationship together with how they interacted. Like, they were both very skittish at first, like, letter received, and what, that's it. And the kids tried to bring them back together, and then through her throwing out her back, it made it more easier to like have a conversation. And then they have this little back and forth where she's like, I need you to show me more of that breathing thing. It was adorable. Like, I ship them. I want to see them married like Arnold and Helga. Like, I need to make a comic of Salute Your Shorts, the after years, just so we can see how these people's lives have developed since then. It was a show that ended too soon.
Yep.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And definitely just the thing that stood out to me in that episode was Ugg on the side of the road, because I'm sure, like, just like in my first pick, a long walk to Pittsburgh, the Boy Meets World episode, when Topanga goes to his house and she's like, all right, Corey, we're leaving, and Corey's waiting at his back door, and he's he watches her like drive off, and he's there for hours. And it's the same thing with Ugg. Like, he's on the side of the road for such a long time,
in complete disbelief. Like, they just want to hope that they're still there, or they're still coming.
Yeah, exactly. And then just to see the polar opposite at the end of the episode, that he finally finds love, and that's definitely, that stands out to me. Absolutely.
All right, so one of my favorite movies as a kid, and one of my favorite Disney movies of all time, Aladdin. And as a kid, I never really shied away from romantic moments. A lot of boys in my class were very slow girl part. Ugh. I didn't mind them, actually. They actually meant a lot to me. And
it's okay, we were more in touch with our sensitive selves.
Yes, that's right.
It's funny because I'm opposite. I didn't grow up, making this list was very hard for me because I didn't even pay attention to romantic moments. I was a nerdy kid that kept my head in the books, and I was just quiet.
I mean, I was too, but I watched Nickelodeon when I wasn't studying.
Yeah. But Aladdin, when when Jasmine just looked at Jafar and so nice. It completely took Jeannie by surprise. It's the most romantic moment. What? It was beautiful. No.
He's all like,
is Alex saying he has a man crush on Jafar?
Two-piece outfit and all. Yeah.
No, obviously the most romantic moment is A Whole New World. That is a beautiful song. And as much as I didn't shy away from romantic moments, I did shy away from slow songs in most movies, because there is a difference. But I didn't really shy away from this one. I really loved this one. It's a beautiful duet between both the characters. I don't really have to go into a whole lot of detail because I'm sure everyone who's listening to this has seen Aladdin at some point.
Yeah.
But it is, it's also one of the songs that Megan and I had bonded over because Megan also grew up watching Disney animated movies.
I grew up on Disney. You grew up on Nickelodeon.
Well, I grew up on Disney as well. It's another one of my big fandom things. But yeah, whenever Disney Nickelodeon would go to like the live action Flipper and Lassie in the early afternoons, I'm putting in a Disney VHS. And Aladdin was one that I watched over. I'm surprised the tape did not break, but whenever Megan and I were dating, I don't like singing, but she and I would often sing Disney songs together, and that was one of the first ones that she and I did, and one of the first times where I was like, okay, I could carry a tune. And anytime that song starts, we can't help but not sing along to it. It's a beautiful song.
I believe there's a funny story with that when we were singing that in the car and our son was in the back seat. He could not.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah. You probably. I knew if I made something click, you would remember. But
Sam, God, he was what, 4?
I think so, 4 or 5, something like that.
But we have several CDs of just a compilation of Disney songs, and we'll play them and oftentimes sing along with them. But we started singing A Whole New World. I don't even think we were listening to the CD that day. I think we were just singing it just to be singing it. And Sam was in the back seat and just goes, has a question. Hey, Mom. And then we continued the song. And Mom continued the song. Dad continued the song. Dad, will you stop singing? Stop singing. I have a question. I have a question. And of course, we went the entire song. And then by the end of it, what'd you want, Sam? Never mind.
Oh. He didn't understand. I was performing.
Yeah, can't stop.
Like stage.
Should have told
him.
him.
Cars to stage.
We were also trying to teach him to stop interrupting at that point too, because we would be talking to somebody and he would just start telling you a story. Sam, wait your turn. So yeah, we weren't stopping.
When you're busting out 90s Disney songs, it's hard to unattach yourself from it because everyone just gets so immersed into it. Like 90s Disney's movies were where it's at, and like anyone who watched them as a kid just knows them like that in a moment's notice, no matter where you are. Like if someone starts saying the lyrics to any of those songs, in a public space, chances are someone else will immediately jump in and continue the song with you until it grows.
But I did really love to change the performers of the song when we first started, because I would change it to Jafar and Iago.
Ooh.
Just to hear their voices doing it and hear how obnoxious it was.
Alternate universe version if Jafar got with Jasmine.
It wasn't pretty.
No, it wasn't. It was not pretty. Gilbert Gottfried singing as Iago, as Jasmine. No, it was not pretty.
No.
Oh,
not at all.
All right.
That's a great pick.
Yeah. Well, I'll continue on the song thing with you there, babe.
No, thank you, babe.
So I picked this song because it is one of the most romantic love songs from the 90s. Technically, it wasn't made in the 90s, but it was remade in the 90s.
Yeah, the original song. Yeah.
Okay.
But it was originally made by a little lady named Dolly Parton, and it was remade by the lovely Miss Whitney Houston. So I picked I Will Always Love You. Because a lot of people, when they hear that song nowadays, they don't think of Dolly, unfortunately, which Dolly did a great job at it, and she did, and it was iconic, but during that time. But man, when Whitney took over it and she made it her own, it became so, I mean, it's on memes, it's everywhere now. And I mean, you think about like most popular songs in the 90s from movies, that one usually ends up being in the top picks because it's one of the most memorable.
Yeah, highly recognizable.
When she comes running out of that airplane to go hug Frank in The Bodyguard, it's one of the more romantic moments of the movies. And I think I remember reading what's his name? Kevin Costner. Actually, when he was at Whitney's funeral, and when he spoke, I believe he talked about their connection during that movie and how well they got along and how much he loved her and admired her, and there was a connection between them too. Like I said, it just goes to show that how you can bond with your co-stars and the people you work alongside with. Right. And but that song to me like always stood out as probably one of my favorite 90s songs of all time, because I mean, nobody will ever match Whitney Houston's talent, unfortunately.
Yeah, those vocals are like a powerhouse. They can cause an earthquake with how strong they are.
I mean, like the Prince of Egypt went all out and they were like, okay, we need 2 female artists to sing the finale song. Who are the 2 most powerful? Oh, Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, of course. Because and I mean, wow. But yeah, still when Dolly wrote that song back in I think the 70s, I think is when she made it. And of course Whitney approached her about doing it for the movie, and she of course was like, yes, go right ahead. And that's the awesome person Dolly Parton is. And she fell in love with her version too, and I thought that was very admirable of her, because some people get a little like, don't record my song, don't re-record it, I don't know, or
right.
But Dolly just was all about it and just thought it was beautiful and just absolutely loved it, and it's probably one of my favorite songs from that.
And I can only imagine back in the 90s, remember whenever you would have to call in requesting a song? I can't even imagine how many people would call in to dedicate this song to my boyfriend or girlfriend, because that song was played a ton. Because this was before boy bands and girl bands were really a thing. So this was an absolute love anthem.
New Kids on the Block was about the most major boy band of that time. But yeah, Whitney had already become a well-known artist at that time, because she had already started making some songs in the late 80s. But a lot of her connections came from Bobby Brown, and Bobby Brown was very popular in the 90s as well. So, but that song really it set the bar for making her one of the greatest singers of all time. So yeah, it's a shame we've lost her so soon, but I would love to hear her sing nowadays.
So moving right along with our list, it's my turn, I believe, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I'm gonna go back to my old standby favorite, Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah.
And we're gonna do one that was a story told by Sam. Speaking of which, your son. Apparently he told the tale of the Dream Girl from season 3, episode 10, which I don't know how he came up with that story when that's a very mature topic, but okay. No,
he's surprisingly mature for his age.
Yes, so he knows about a thing or two about true love.
Yeah. Tell him everything I know.
Yeah, but anyways, I picked the tale of the Dream Girl because this one is like one of my top 5 all-time favorite episodes. Highly rewatchable, highly like heart-wrenching, very emotional. It's unlike any other episode in terms of its tone and the writing, and the acting is just on a whole other level.
I was just going to ask if it was one I had seen, because I was like, I feel like it sounds familiar.
It's one of the more popular ones because everyone's like, hey, did M. Night Shyamalan like base Sixth Sense off this? And even though that rumor refuses to die, I have evidence that no, it's not. It's just a coincidence because he came up with it at a funeral with like some sketches in a notebook. So anyone who is familiar with that rumor, stop it.
Brett Wilson says stop.
Yes. I wrote the book, damn it. I'm the authority. It really comes down to Johnny's performance. Like, I really love Fab Filippo's portrayal of Johnny here, where he's essentially, spoiler, if you haven't seen the episode, he's a ghost, comes back from the dead. He didn't know it. He just goes back to working at the bowling alley as if nothing ever happened after this car accident that he had with his girlfriend. And he starts seeing like this mysterious, beautiful girl who keeps showing up and like, Johnny, I want you. You know, you have my ring. Don't you want to be with me? And he's just like, look, I don't know what you're talking about, but get out of my life. And I'm like, dude, look how beautiful she is. Don't talk to her like that. You obviously have a thing, you just don't remember. But his sister Erica is like trying to jog his memory with like the newspaper article thing that he does. And you know, he keeps having flashbacks where he's hearing sounds of the accident that he recently was in, and it all leads to these two particular moments from this show that really, really get to me every time. One is where he like meets her in like a Cinderella type scenario where they're both like at the bowling alley after dark. There's this weird like night shift that kind of gives me Shining vibes at the bar with like this lady and like these two this couple who looks like they're from the 1940s or 50s, and they just have this very romantic dance together with the sexy saxophone music, and it's like, oh, I'm feeling this. I want to be there right now dancing.
I thought you weren't going to show.
I'd never stand you up. Well, I can't. You're wearing my ring.
This is yours? How did you?
Let's dance.
Who are you? How do you know me?
You must know. You're wearing my ring.
It is, but I found.
Shh. It's almost time to go.
And then the second part, after Johnny breaks the immersion by tripping on that table and makes all the ghosts go away, is when he goes to the graveyard to like stop this from happening, because he's like going mad from all these reoccurrences and whatnot. And Erica ends up following him there to the graveyard, and they find the grave that reveals that Johnny died along with his girlfriend Donna like a year ago, I guess, or a few months ago, 4 months. And you know, he just has that realization like, whoa, this is why this has been happening. And he's like, well, why didn't you tell me, to his sister? And she couldn't, because she didn't want to let go of him after he was dead. She wanted to believe that he was still there with her and that they can just move on with a normal life. And that's like the hardest thing to deal with, is that when you lose someone you love, especially a family member, and you can't accept that they're gone. Yeah. And so it's a very complicated array of emotions going on there, where like you have the brotherly and sisterly love going on between siblings, and then you have the love between people who are meant for each other, boyfriend and girlfriend. And when Donna shows up again in like the fogginess of the background in the graveyard and just staring at him like, come on, Johnny, it's time. You figured it out. Let's go. You know, she didn't say it that way, but essentially that's what she meant. And Johnny just gives her one stare, and he's like, I don't think I can stay. And that like that moment until he walks off into, you know, the misty afterlife, and then with Sam's monologue, it just gets to me every time. I can't help but cry at that scene, especially with the sexy sax music really intensifying things, and the close-up kiss of them like
And you're saying sexy sex.
really passionate.
And I'm like, what?
Oh, yes.
Say that 10 times
sex
fast.
music.
Saxophones. Okay, sax. Okay.
It also particularly stands out to me because I used to play alto and tenor saxophone, so I could play that if I wanted to. I just don't have it right now.
It's Michael Kamen Lethal Weapon sax music.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you haven't seen the episode, listeners, Slimesters Gackoids, go watch it. It's like top tier. Are You Afraid of the Dark? Very poignant, very emotional.
I know that there's a lot of our listeners who really enjoy Are You Afraid of the Dark, but I know that there's some others out there who haven't really watched it or revisited it since they were a kid. And I didn't watch Are You Afraid of the Dark when I was a kid because I was too terrified of it. Goosebumps was a lot more safe for me to watch.
I mean, that intro with the weird puppet in the attic, I mean, that's enough to scare so many kids off.
That still freaks me out to this day. Like the music, the whole theme song, just yeah.
But I revisited the whole series last year, and that episode, Are You Afraid of the Dark, has some episodes with some not so great acting.
Yeah.
Particularly the first episode.
I was just about to say, like, particularly the first episode.
There's a lot more really well acted episodes than there is hammy acting episodes.
Oh yeah.
And,
they went the serious route compared to Goosebumps, and it made it age better as a result.
It did. And there are very few episodes of the entire franchise that I made Megan sit down to watch with me because she had to watch them. And this was one of those.
Nice.
The acting in this was very poignant. And especially those two moments that you had pointed out, Brett. So if Are You Afraid of the Dark fans, I'm sure are already well aware of how great this episode is. If you haven't watched any episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark, or the only thing you have seen are episodes like with Zebo or The Ghastly Grinner, check out Dream Girl. It is one of the best.
Yeah, it's worth it. Monica, what do you have for us?
All right. So my fourth pick is from a show called Daria.
La 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 la.
From season 3, episode 8. I'm probably gonna mispronounce it. Lane Miserable.
Yeah, close enough.
I think so.
It's based off the Les
Les
Miserables.
Miserables. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with Daria. So
I never watched an episode, but I do know the show.
Yeah, so it was a show on MTV, and of course, you know, I always watched it like behind my parents' back because my parents were super strict. And anytime we had MTV on, like if they walked into the room, they're like, "You're watching MTV, you need to change the channel." So like we always had it so that we programmed like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network on like the recall button. And so like anytime the door would open, we'd be like recall, and then like they would see us watching like Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network, and so
Little did they know you were getting into more mature content.
Yeah. And so this episode, it's basically, well, the moment doesn't really have to do with like the whole episode, but basically like Daria is this like, I guess, monotone, cynical, like nerdy girl that, you know, she's just very cynical about the world, and, you know, she just kind of like loves to read books and, you know, all that stuff. And so she has a best friend named Jane, who's a bit alternative. She's into like art and like rock music. And so Jane has a brother named Trent. He's older, I believe.
Yeah.
So he's like in this rock band, real winner of a guy. Like, you know, he lives in his van.
He kind of talks like this. And he has a band called Mystic Spiral. And he's like, wait a minute. Dario, can I lay down on your bed? You know, he has that Keanu Reeves kind of slow cadence to his voice that's kind of sexy, but also you don't know what's going on in his head because he's trying so hard to think.
Right, exactly. Yeah, not very bright individual. And so like for some reason, I guess Daria has a huge crush on Trent. It's kind of been like a part of the storyline for many episodes. And so in this particular episode, you know, I guess something happens at Janie's house.
Yeah.
Laney's, I forgot.
Jane,
Lane, whatever.
But basically all of her relatives, like siblings who were out living their lives, came back all of a sudden, and they can't deal with being with each other because the family dynamic is shooken up. Yeah.
And, you know, things are really hectic at the house. And so Jane ends up going to Daria's house because she's like, oh, I can't stand, with my family and all that. So she stays over at her house, and then Trent follows her. And so, I guess Daria sees Trent going on a date with some girl that he keeps breaking up with and like getting back together. It's a really toxic relationship. And so, she kind of sits there and imagines what her life would be like if she were to end up with him. And so she comes home and, in this like fantasy world, and like he's asleep on the couch. He's like does nothing for a living.
Got
like
a pot belly.
He's got a pot belly. He swear he's going to make it one day in his band. And she was like, well, I would love to work extra shifts at the gene splicing lab, but, little Trent Jr. needs glasses. And so, he's like, no, Daria, I swear one day I'm going to make it in this band. I promise you. And, it's just, yeah, it's one of those moments that it's not necessarily romantic, but I feel like most of us, if any listeners can relate, it's like you kind of think about like you have a crush on a person and what they could be, and that they're not right. Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're not right, and it's just one of those that doesn't make sense, and that kind of stands out to me.
Wait, what about the other one that they had, Daria had at the end of the episode where they were in better circumstances?
So she has this daydream that life is miserable. She's working like multiple jobs just to make ends meet, and he's still kind of a deadbeat. And then so I think after that little daydream sequence, she's like, you know what, I think I'm finally over him. And then like at the end, when they leave the house and they go back to like their own house, Trent's like, Daria, yeah, you're right. That girl is just not good for me. Like, we just weren't meant to be. Like, too bad you're not like 10 years older.
not 10 years older, more like a few years.
You're thinking he said 10 years.
Well, I have an honorable mention that mentions he had to be 10 years older to get with the person of his desire.
Well, anyways, he wishes that she was older. And so she's kind of, she goes into another daydream where she's imagining like Trent's like all cleaned up and polished. And he's like, I can't imagine my life without you. And then she's just like, oh no. So she kind of falls into that like vicious cycle again.
Of pining for him.
Yeah.
Pretty romantic, huh?
Very.
It's
like one of those like odd romantic moments.
Yeah.
My next pick, I actually saw the parody of this movie before I saw the actual movie, and Megan, I think, was in the same boat. I know
Men in Tights.
Yes, I know that there's a lot of people who don't really care for this version of the character, but I personally loved it as a kid, and I still love it. But it is Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved the character of Robin Hood. Period.
Oh, me too.
Even the iterations that are less than good, I still really like them just because I like the character so much.
Yeah.
And I love the story. But Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, I think, is my favorite version of the story. I think a big part of it is because of the cast of characters, particularly Alan Rickman. But the romantic scene, that dungeon scene, man. I mean, you gotta have a little S&M for Valentine's Day. Now look at the uncomfortableness on Brett. I was waiting for that one.
No, I just watched the most uncomfortable scene in Outlander in a dungeon.
What?
So no.
Yes.
You just had to bring that up.
Sorry about that. It'll make it more convincing.
Anyway.
No, the actual thing is Robin and Marion really sell the show for me. I know there's a lot of people who don't really care for Kevin Costner's performance in the movie because it's Kevin Costner. And pretty much is the same in every movie.
Go back to Dances with Wolves.
Thank you.
But you can say that about a lot of actors.
Yeah.
It's the same actor, same performance every movie, and if it works for them, it works for them. They keep coming back. People keep supporting these things, whether you like them or not.
Like Johnny Depp.
Exactly. But I like Kevin Costner. I think he did fine. but the romance between for those who haven't really paid attention, well, I don't want to say paid attention, for those who haven't seen this version of the movie, when Robin comes back from the Crusades, a friend of his died and asked, will you please look after my sister, which was Maid Marian. And the Crusades have changed him completely. And when he sees Marian, he's very much about loyalty now and maturity. And yes, he still has a lot of antics, but those antics pop up on people who are just pure jerks, like the sheriff and his merry men, his posse. But most of the time, he's actually pretty sincere, especially with those who work with him. And Marion doesn't remember him that way. She remembers him as being a jokester and would like set her hair on fire when she was a little girl. And that's not him anymore. And has devoted himself to protecting her. But she clearly doesn't need his protection. She's actually been very formidable and very cunning. But near the middle portion of the movie, once Robin of Locksley is becoming known as Robin Hood and starts stealing and giving to the poor, she goes to find him in the Sherwood Forest and sees the life that he's now given to the people who have been there with him, because a lot of people just think of Robin Hood and Little John, but in this version of the story, it's not just Robin Hood and Little John, it's a whole village essentially, and they've built almost Swiss Family Robinson lifestyle with tree houses and rope ladders, and
very cool.
Very, very inventive. And she begins to realize, holy crap, he's not the same kid that I used to know. He really is somebody who genuinely cares and cares about these people. And of course, she walks in on him while he's taking a shower in a waterfall, which would completely knock him down, and sees him in all of his glory. And his lady in waiting, or her lady in waiting, is like, "Oh, my lady, please don't look." And of course, she keeps trying to peek anyway. But little objectification never hurt anybody. But she also sees that what he's planning to do with the money that he's been stealing from the sheriff, who's been stealing from others. And he starts to train other people. Here's how you defend yourselves. And as he's doing so, teaching them how to shoot a bow and arrow, and they're all messing up. It's like, here, Marion goes, well, why don't you show them? Oh, okay, fine, I will. And gets ready to shoot, and she leans right up next to him and blows in his ear and completely misses the shot. And she's like, well done, well done. And it really felt like, it felt like this, what Megan and I were describing with us earlier, where it was, even though they weren't friends as kids, they still were, they got along fine, but there was also a lot of, oh my gosh, you're annoying. Yeah. And now they have feelings for one another, and it's very clearly showing, but they're not admitting it to themselves, to the point where the character who was blinking in Men in Tights, they get into the boat. Mary and her lady in waiting and the servant who was blinded, they start to leave, and he tells Marion he fancies you. And she goes, what do you mean? I may be blind, but there are some things I still can see.
Oh.
And that whole scene, even though it's very much exposition, there's also a lot of character building, particularly between those two scenes, or between those two characters. If you didn't have that scene, the rest of the emotional bits between the two of them wouldn't work. And another thing that really resonated with me about that movie in particular was the song by Bryan Adams, Everything I Do It For You. The movie really meant a lot to me as a kid and as a teenager. And then when the two of us started dating, you always make that. Kids in the 90s and the early 2000s, it used to be mixtapes, and then it turned into CDs.
And then playlists.
And you would always make those romantic or mixed CDs, but you
Yeah.
get in those relationships, you got to make those songs of, hey, this reminds me of you type thing.
It was like one of the first
Yeah.
things you gave me when we became a couple. It was
Yeah.
like, here's some songs I made for you
Yeah.
that I think about.
Yeah.
I used to do that, but I never got any back.
And that was right when we were dating, because waited three years for her to even agree to date me. And when she finally agreed to it, that song really hit me at my core. So that song combined with that movie,
right,
is one of the things I think about in terms of one of the most romantic elements in cinema.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great song. Like, it really cuts to your core when you're taken away by the lyrics and the delicate piano melodies and Bryan Adams' voice swelling as he gets further through the lyrics. So I haven't seen the Prince of Thieves version. I've only seen Men in Tights, but I do love the Robin Hood character, and I think it's very fitting for their backstory. It's like a modern retelling.
Yep.
You ready for me?
Yes, I am.
Ready for me? Okay.
Yes.
So my fourth pick, I'm gonna go with another late 90s pick movie that was also one of my favorites, which is 10 Things I Hate About You, which is based off Shakespeare's Taming of the Shrew, which Alex and I both were in as well.
Ooh,
unfortunately, we were not the
backstory.
two main characters, but still.
Yeah.
But the scene that sticks out to me for one of the most romantic things that he does for her was whenever he sings in front of the whole school and the football field and has the marching band play for her.
What is it about marching bands and football fields that are romantic?
I don't know. See, I was
That's
like,
the third time now.
I know. I'm like, man. But
Do I need to go play football to profess my love to you?
yeah, there you go. Friday Night Lights going on, or so, yeah. It's like, what, I don't know what it is about football games and confessing their loves. I don't know.
Yeah.
But,
It's a high school thing to do.
Because that's where most of the kids are. And
True.
if you want to get people's attention, stop a football game in front of the entire school board.
Although there wasn't a football game going on in this.
No.
They were having soccer practice, but
close enough.
But yeah, but to me, I felt like this was the point in the movie whenever Heath Ledger's character was more starting to really kind of fall for Julia Stiles. By this point, it was not so much anymore, oh hey, you're going to pay me to go out with her just so you can date her sister. So okay, he was starting to really like her. He started to, okay, I think I could not just have fun, but I feel like there's something special about her. And I mean, to do something like that to me is a bold thing to do, and he risked it, and he did get in detention, and she paid back tenfold in that, but but it still was probably one of the most iconic scenes from the movie. Most memorable, besides the part where she's reading her poem at the end of the movie. But I was torn between that and also the part at the end of the movie when he gives her the Fender, the guitar for her to start her band, as a romantic gesture, because he does use the money that he was given and buys the gift for her, because she had mentioned about wanting to start an all-girl band and play guitar in it. But what you're looking at me like,
no, I'm trying to think of something. I know that Not Another Teen Movie did a parody of the scene that you were talking about. Did they do a parody of the poem scene? I don't think they did.
I don't think so.
So
I haven't seen that movie in a long time.
So there's another testament to how iconic that scene is whenever it gets put into a parody movie.
Although I still remember the parody version as well, because her name was Janie, and he sings, he's like, pick a song that really stands out, that's really romantic.
Janie
says a lot about her. Okay. Janie does the whole school. Janie's going. We like tackle her on the field. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to rewatch both of those films again. They're great.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, 10 Things I Hate About You is definitely one of my all-time favorite movies, up there with Never Been Kissed. It's one that I can watch on repeat. I can quote it. And it also gave me a love of Shakespeare too, because it is a takeoff of Taming of the Shrew. And when we got to do the show, it was really cool going, okay, so this is Julia Stiles' character, this is Heath Ledger's character.
Right, finding the
Your
parallels.
character, I think, was like, I was trying to think, I was like, I think you were Bernard in this, your character, because he was kind of the friend, like helping out Otto's character. You know, Otto was Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. So you were Bernard.
I have a dick on my face.
Yeah, you're the one. I have a dick on my face. Yeah. That was you. But it really did. It was a lot of fun to do, and probably, like I said, just one of my all-time favorite movies of all time. And that scene in particular always stands out. And I definitely would say that's a huge romantic gesture for me.
So for my next and final favorite, before we get to honorable mentions, I mean, I was actually thinking about, when you were talking about Disney, I remembered another one that I really wanted to mention that I forgot about, because I was only thinking in the mindset of like 90s Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. But I'm gonna have to mention that one in my honorable mentions later. This one is from another show, 90s Nickelodeon, that tends to have some romantic moments in its own weird, strange way. It's already been mentioned before, but I have to say it here just because I have a personal attachment to it. So without belaboring it anymore, it's Rocko's Modern Life, and the episode is called Wallaby on Wheels from season 4, episode 9B. And the reason why this stands out to me so much is because of all the instances where Rocco like falls for someone, whether it's like Melba or Claudette from like the I See London, I See France episode, or Alicia from SWAC. I feel like Sheila really gave Rocco a chance to like get to know him better without all the pretenses or all the chaos that comes in between them, in terms of like having other characters or all these hoops he has to jump through for the most part. So for anyone who doesn't remember this episode but loves Rocco, what happens is Rocco's like working at the comic shop, reading some comics to pass the time. All of a sudden, a girl rolls right on in her rollerblades, who picks up a roller derby comic book. And as soon as he sees her, after reading a really, really big man comic that's about falling in love, he just goes bonkers for her. Like, he gets hearts in his eyes and he's like stammering all over his words. It's like this little pink fox named Sheila with teal hair, which is very cute. And after she like pays for the comic and leaves, Heifer comes in and notices that he's like a little bit off today. He's like, "Are you okay, Rocco?" And then he's like, "Oh, Rocco and Sheila sitting in a tree kissing," instead of KISSING. I love that. Like, Heifer totally ragging on him. And then, you know, Rocco is interested in getting to know her more. So he notices that, you know, Heifer and Sheila are friends and they like hang out at the roller rink. So they end up going to the roller rink, but Rocco's like totally terrible at roller skating. He's just constantly flailing about, trying to, you know, keep his balance together and not fall flat on his face. And, you know, he decides, after watching Heifer, you know, put on the moves by like showing off and doing all these fancy moves in the roller rink as the king. Apparently he has a reputation there that we never knew about until now. Rocco's like, "Oh yeah, well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to do like the most dangerous, death-defying stunt that's available here." And then the guy who's like running the roller rink just pulls a lever, and this giant, you know, American Gladiators obstacle course just shows up out of nowhere, like 50, 100 feet in the air in the roller rink. And Rocco just gets up there and he's like, "What am I doing? Am I going to do this?" And it's like a heart versus brain kind of moment where the heart wins, and he just goes through it, scared out of his mind. But then, you know, he ends up getting through it miraculously, but he can't stop. Like, after he goes through the obstacle, he just keeps on going down the hill towards the bottomless pit. So Heifer goes to save him. And then in doing so, like launching him to safety into a pillow factory on the side, Heifer gets knocked out by like a construction crane that's like crossing the street. And then Rocco has to save him. So in doing that, he like finds this guy who's working, steals his jackhammer, and like carves a path for this giant globe that gets knocked off of this gym that's rolling downhill towards Heifer, towards the bottomless pit, and ends up like getting into the pit, plugging it. And there's a cat again. And then Heifer ends up landing safely on on the globe. But the point of me mentioning this is that at the end of all that, Sheila shows up and notices, the heroic deed that he did to save Heifer.
Rocco, that was wonderful. You saved Hef.
He saved me first. Look, Sheila, I have a confession to make. I'm not really a good skater. The truth is, I just wanted to impress you.
You're a nice guy, Rocco. That's what impresses me. I will say this, though. You sure know how to handle a jackhammer.
Thanks, it's a hobby.
The quote that really stuck out with me is like Sheila saying, "You're a nice guy, Rocco. That's what impresses me." Even as a little kid. And I'm like, one day I'm going to meet someone who thinks that way. And I even watched it on the old VHS orange tape of Rocco where they had like the little compilations, and I had the love themed one, and that was one of the episodes on it. So that really stuck with me throughout all the years, and just like being comfortable with being myself so that the right person shows up at the right time. And, I don't know if Rocco and Sheila developed their relationship from there, because it was the end of the series pretty much, like only a few episodes before that. But I'd like to think that Rocco had the most success in finding love with her compared to all the other instances where, it didn't quite work out.
I think you told me that Rocco actually has quite a few sentimental episodes.
It does.
They really.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's
kind of touch on the heartstrings a lot on some of the episodes.
If you can combine the adult humor of Ren and Stimpy, and then put in some of the genuine heart from Pete and Pete, I think we have Rocco.
So I guess my last pick, and of course, Brett can also comment on this because he'll definitely know this one.
It's got sexy sax music in it. How could I not love it?
Sexy sax? Sax music?
The only 2 episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark that I know that have that kind of track. Thank you, Jeff Fisher.
Yes, thank you, Jeff Fisher. So it comes from season 2, episode 5, and it's A Tale of the Dream Machine. And so basically, when I was a kid watching this, the part that stood out to me, of course, 2-second synopsis for those who have not watched it. It's basically like this typewriter that this kid finds in his basement.
It's underneath the floorboards leading up to the attic.
See, there we go. So, it was basically a basement. It's just that creepy. So, Brett's cringing on the inside. Basically. And then things happen, and then the end.
No, that's not how it goes.
No.
So romantic. I love it.
You want to go ahead and tell him?
It's your pick. You should tell him.
You're like crinkling as I'm like telling it.
Okay, so thanks to Monica's permission, here's the right way to describe the Dream Machine. So here's what happens. Sean Hackett is a kid who has 2 loves in life: writing and Jennifer, whatever the hell her last name is. And he likes writing a lot about her in his notebook. And there's this teacher who loves to eat sticky buns and donuts and all that stuff. And there's an assignment where he has to write a 2-page short story essay that's like a big part of his grade. So, while he's thinking about what he's going to write, he and his friend Billy go to his like new house that he moved into in another part of the neighborhood, something like that. And they're like recently renovating it, and they go inside, and Billy falls through the floorboards of the steps leading to the attic, revealing like a secret writing room that some writer named James Ellington died in 1937 and created all of his greatest hits in there. But he passed away unexpectedly due to being murdered. And they find this old mysterious typewriter that they like spruce up, and Sean starts writing on it just to try it out. And he writes 2 stories. He writes Halloween Dance and Blind Paul. And Halloween Dance, what happens in that is that, it's a Halloween dance. He's dressed as Count Sean, and he ends up running into Jennifer there, who's dressed like kind of a genie type costume. They have a very romantic dance together after some pretty wild monster sounding hyper organ dance kind of music.
It's very Halloween in the 90s.
Yeah, it feels very Halloween.
What is your name, princess?
But after he like snaps his fingers and the music changes to a ballad, you get that sexy sax music again, and they have some dancing going on. And as they, step aside outside of the gymnasium to like get more intimate near the lockers, he like leans in forward and like opens his teeth like the night shift vampire, and is about to like suck her neck like that. And then he ends the story. But it doesn't end there, because the story actually comes to life when it's read. And I believe his friend Billy reads it, and because he reads it, it like activates the dream machine typewriter, kind of like Ghostwriter, where it glows green. And he has to live through that story until it's finished. So you got that going on with the romance. Blind Paul isn't really romantic, so I'm not going to talk about that much. He just, Billy just gets buried alive by some shadow man. But it also leads to Jennifer having dreams about this stuff because he's writing about it. And then they like reconvene the next day, trying to figure out what's going on here, because they don't truly understand the powers of the dream machine just quite yet. And then to test it out further, the next night, Sean writes like another story where they're both standing in this cloudy, dreamlike landscape that reminds me of a Windows 95 screensaver, and they're explaining the rules of how this works. Like, oh, in a dream, anything can happen, where I can like turn into Cat Sean and then back into my green blazer with tie.
Jennifer, do you remember that vampire nightmare you had?
Yeah?
I think I wrote it.
What do you mean?
Well, I made it up. Like I'm making this up right now. This isn't real. It's a dream I'm creating for you with this.
I don't get it.
It's a dream machine. If I type out a story about somebody, they'll dream it. There. Look familiar? Anything I imagine can happen. Hold out your hand.
It's wonderful. But it's scary.
I need to find out if it's true. When I end this, I want you to call me, okay?
Okay.
Sorry. The white cloud rose up around them, and the dream was over. The end.
After she's like mesmerized by the wonder of like spontaneity and creativity, they end up sharing a kiss, which ends up being like the very first kiss on Are You Afraid of the Dark on screen, by two characters, the second being a dream girl. So other than that, do you have anything to add? Because those are like the two main romantic moments. It's certainly not romantic to see them chasing the teacher who's like stealing all the baked goods from the cafeteria and then reading the stories.
Actually, DJ, I was just going to mention.
I can't help myself, okay? I know this show way too well.
He does.
It's my gift and my curse.
It's one of my favorite shows, definitely. But one moment that stands out to me in that episode is that Halloween school dance that he mentioned. As a kid, I remember seeing that scene, and it's just like typical like 90s Halloween music with like the organs, like everyone's dancing. And I always wondered, because Halloween's one of my favorite holidays. I watched it and I'm like, man, I wish I could go to a party like that. But it stands out to me nowadays, actually, because when we first started dating, funny story, I actually had a similar dream where we were at a Halloween dance and he was dressed as Count Sean and I was Jennifer.
not Count Brett.
Yeah, exactly. And he pulled me to a corner and I thought he was gonna kiss me, but then he like revealed his fangs, and then like that's when I woke up in like a panic, and it was very weird, but very, very fitting that I would have an Are You Afraid of the Dark like dream about Brett.
Yeah. And our love of Are You Afraid of the Dark brought us together. So it kind of
Yeah.
worked out. Kind of worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's the moment, the romantic moment that kind of stands out to me.
Yeah.
Thanks, DJ, for the
No
acting
problem.
out the whole plot.
And just as a disclaimer, no necks forbidden. So Alex, what do you got?
My fifth pick, in no particular order, is The Mask of Zorro.
Ooh.
And I've known the character of Zorro has been around for a very long time. I remember there was a Disney Channel TV series, and I've known that there's been Zorro movies, but I had never been interested to watch. And Mask of Zorro came out in '98, I believe.
Yep.
And it looked really cool. It looked good. And it was directed by the same guy who did GoldenEye, which I absolutely love that movie. And I thought, okay, I like this guy's movies. I'll check it out. So I went in just for the action and adventure of it. And I ended up getting a lot more than just action and fun adventure. The romance between Zorro and Catherine Zeta-Jones' character, Elena, was really, really strong, even for a teenage preteen me.
Another couple who had great chemistry on screen, by the way.
Yeah, Antonio Banderas and Catherine Zeta-Jones. I mean, there was some strong chemistry there. But as fun as the movie is in general, there is one scene and one thing, much the same as Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where there's two things about it that really resonated with me. One of them, the one scene in the movie that I think of when I think of romance, and it's very unorthodox when you think romance, because it was in the stables, and Zorro comes to get his horse after he's been messing with the villain of the movie to get his horse and leave. But Elena shows up, who is the daughter of the villain, the quote-unquote daughter, and she's trying to stop Zorro. Like, you've stolen something from my dad, give it to me. And of course he's like, no. And then the two of them go into a duel, essentially, and she holds her own pretty well, but she's clearly outmatched with this version of Zorro, and he's just toying with her, and she hates it and she loves it at the same time.
She must have the proper instructions since she was 4.
So there's a lot of just sexual tension within the scene, but also and you've already seen in previous moments where she was actually really
smitten with him.
Yes. And I really liked that part because I wasn't expecting that part. I was just expecting action, fun adventure movie. I wasn't expecting there to be genuine romance as well. And of course, it goes away from that sexual tension and goes to genuine care and romance later. But the reason that scene resonated so well is because this one,
I did not rip my clothes off for you.
I am really still mad about.
Like you, what? Oh.
No, we would. I'm gonna say something that a lot of people are gonna go, what is that? But because Megan had mentioned earlier, we grew up in children's church together as kids, and then we went into helping in children's church, and we would do what is called stick dramas. What is that? We would take a song and we would act it out, but we wouldn't say anything. We would just pantomime to it, but we would do it using dowel rods in our hands. And a lot of times after I found out she had seen the movie and she loved the movie, and she and I would act out that scene with our sticks. We would fake sword fight, and then we always got to that part where he would cut her clothes off, and then she'd go, okay, I'm done. but that banter between the two was very, very similar to the banter that she and I have always had, still do, because she doesn't back down. and he's playful, and vice versa. And that we weren't even dating at the time. And like I said, I had waited 3 years for her to even agree to date me. And that was right in that moment of I'm waiting for her to please say, yes, will you date me? So we did a lot of Zorro play for a long time. But that scene was one of the things that stuck with me the most. And if it wasn't for what happened here, it wouldn't have hit me so much. And the other thing about the movie that is the most influential is the song at the end of the movie. I want to spend my lifetime loving you. That is very much my anthem in my relationship with Megan. When we got married and when she finally agreed, and that song it always makes my heart swell every time. And if there is any song that I could genuinely sing well and sing a duet with, it would want to be that one. But I could never do that song justice. But
it's Mark Anthony.
Yeah, that's a tough song to do.
I can't even do I don't know her name, but yeah, that sings the female part.
But it is a very, very romantic song, and probably it is my favorite romantic song. So Mask of Zorro has a very, very, very special place in our heart.
Oh,
very nice.
14 years of marriage.
In April.
Wow. Congratulations.
14 years. Yeah. I
So-
know.
Well, you got a long way to go.
We're young kids compared to you two.
I know.
Just
What are you trying to
starting
say?
Just starting out with our relationship.
Yeah, okay.
In terms of
I'll let it
experience,
slide.
not age.
Yeah. We're all probably the same age.
Yeah.
Well, and like Megan said earlier, we got started very young in our relationship.
Yeah. Well, y'all don't tell how old y'all are. I'm 34. You can tell how old I am.
That's nice. Congratulations.
I'm 34.
I'm 34.
Yay!
87.
I'm the young one of the bunch by a year.
By a year.
All right, and your final pick and yours?
Well, my final pick is from one of my favorite childhood shows from the 90s. Because I was obsessed with the Olsen twins growing up.
Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, VHS tapes.
Yes, I had them, let me tell you. And I used to watch them on repeat. But no, Full House was actually one of my favorite sitcom shows that I grew up. Again, I could quote the whole show probably. I watched them on repeat. My parents were probably sick of me watching it as many times as I did. Because they'd be like, oh Lord, because every time I'll be like, oh, they got a sentimental moment here, and they're gonna play the sad music or this and all that. But it had more to it. But the episode I'm gonna pick out is from season 4, episode 19, which is the wedding, part 2. Of course, it's the big wedding of Uncle Jesse and
Joey.
Becky. No. I'm sad that Joey didn't get married on the show though, but and Aunt Becky. A lot is actually a 2-parter episode because Jesse gets kind of spooked a little bit by the father-in-law that he's got to get in like one last ride before he ties down the knot. Like he's not going to be able to do his own thing, or he's going to have to trade in his Harley for a station wagon for like or trading in our cool car for a minivan or something like that. Just lame things like that got spooked. Which, if you think about it, I can see how it affected Jesse, because when you watch Jesse from the earlier seasons, he was the playboy.
Dr. Dare.
Dr. Dare. Yes, he wasn't tied down to a single woman, and it wasn't until he first met Becky that he kept kind of reconnecting with her throughout episodes, and you saw that there was something there between them. And for him to be tied down to one person was a huge step for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I know it was kind of a scare for him that he put that in his mind, but of course, Becky reassures him that all the great adventures were about to begin because they were about to start this great journey together. And one of my favorite moments is during the wedding when he does sing to her the Forever song by the Beach Boys.
That's a beautiful song.
Him singing it with the choir in the background was just gorgeous. It's probably one of the best moments from the show, and every time I watch it I tear up because I do think about our wedding day because
we got married.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we did.
I don't remember that. I was drunk.
That one time
there was so much going on that day. Like I remember just all the emotions I went through. You probably don't even realize that you were playing Rock Band upstairs.
I was playing Rock Band.
He was
hell yeah, I love Rock Band.
And I'm over here like mom's going, you need to eat something, and because I hadn't ate anything, I was so nervous.
I remember I didn't get to have my groom's cake because everybody ate my Mario Brothers groom's cake before I got done with pictures.
He never got to get it. By the time we finished our pictures, he's like, I don't even have any of my groom cake left.
Oh.
Yeah, but it was still an adventure, and it was still and it kind of goes back to what she said, all the great adventures that we're about to experience have yet to happen because we're going to do them together. And that I kind of look at their relationship like with the way me and Alex are. They were playful with each other, but there was such true love and devotion to each other, and regardless of your fake over here. But it is one of my favorite episodes actually, and also in the fact that they're a wedding party and they couldn't decide between a wedding song, so they took a mashup of one of his and one of hers and made it their own. And I said that would be me and Alex. It would have been a toss-up like, oh, I want an AC/DC song. Well, I'd be like, I want a Celine Dion song or something like that. But then we'd have to mash them up together.
Imagine that mashup.
Yeah, that's
yeah. It's like that'd be just an example, but yeah, no, that's
my heart will fall to the highway to help.
That's what it would be. I feel like that's what it would be. But yeah, so that's it's pretty sentimental to me. I grew up on that show.
That show is ridiculous, but it had a lot of moments that really resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah,
it was grounded in some form of reality, and I think anytime anybody who's happily married, no matter what show or movie it is you watch, you see a wedding, you're instantly gonna, I remember that day.
Right.
And ironically, they got married on Valentine's Day. So
how fitting.
They don't really talk much about it on the day of the wedding, but whenever they were trying to decide on a wedding date, she says, let's get married on Valentine's Day. He goes, well, she said, let's get married on the most romantic day of the year. And he said, Elvis's birthday. And she said, no.
Well, that's our list of favorite 90s romantic moments, Slimesters and Gackoids. Hope you enjoy the wide gamut that we have to offer. But before we move on further with our episode, let's say some honorable mentions. And I'll basically just rattle these off in the order that we have them, because it seems like every time someone talks about one of their picks, another one pops into my head.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go rapid fire through mine, and then the others can elaborate a little bit more on theirs. One of them that stuck out with me, but I couldn't quite put it on my list, is Rugrats, Angelica in Love from season 2, episode 5A, where Angelica essentially falls in love with Dean, this new kid in town who has like the whole Fonz kind of look to him. You know, he's got the leather jacket and the big wheel. And there's this one quote from this particular episode that I love for this alone, and it goes like this. Where Angelica says, it has to be something dangerous. After all, I'm playing the most dangerous game of all. And Chucky replies, musical chairs. And Angelica says, no, dummy, love. I mean, when you think about it, musical chairs really is the most dangerous game. I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
Someone could fall over and hurt their head.
Some bottoms and break backs.
Break a tailbone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love lines like that. I mean, the episode's pretty goofy, and Angelica ends up running on a chariot drawn by Spike, and Dean saves her and all that jazz. And then he ends up going away, and then she falls in love for this French kid afterward. But I had to make an honorable mention for that quote. There's also A Real Monsters episode called Blind Love, Monster Love from season 3, episode 9B. And this one kept going back and forth between my list and honorable mentions because I really felt for Ickis in this situation where some of my earlier days when I was dealing with romance in, I would say like middle school to early college, late high school, where I was dealing with a lot of unrequited love where I loved someone, but they didn't love me back. And it resonated with me where Ickis fell in love with a puppet named Judy, I think it's Juliet, because they were doing like a puppet theater in the park. And he thought it was like a tiny human or like a monster human hybrid that, it really caught his attention. And when he ended up scaring the puppet master and taking the puppet away to the Monster Academy, he was so excited to like go on a date and all these, make all these fantasies of them running around the dump, having fun come true. But when he was there and he found out that it was actually a puppet, or technically Crumb underneath the puppet, like trying to pretend to be Juliet, my heart just broke and really felt for him. And then there was a few moments where Crumb said some poignant things about the episode that really stuck to me throughout all these years. So that had to be on the list in some form. Other than that, I have Adventures of Pete and Pete, Crisis in the Love Zone from season 3, episode 6. That whole episode is just jam-packed with lovey-dovey, goofy moments like little Pete and Eunice Puel, the mail lady. Another mail lady. Was it with people falling in love with mail ladies? And of course, everyone's favorite, where Pitstain opens up his shirt to Nona and reveals a heart-shaped sunburn there, and then like the bologna statue of Nona.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, the things people do for love. And then wrapping up, I have one from Dexter's Lab on Cartoon Network, actually, is Babysitter Blues from season 1, episode 108A. And this is where he falls in love with his babysitter, Lisa. And in order to like get with her, he ages himself 10 years older. But what he didn't expect is that he'd grow up to be a nerd. And she didn't like that. So she got distraught by that. And then Dee Dee, his older dim-witted sister, ended up chasing her, thinking that she was looking for him like as a diversion to get her way. So it was just silly hijinks that was romantic tied. And then real quick, I'm just going to mention Hook and Disney's Hercules because they had a lot of romantic moments that stuck out to me, particularly in Hercules when like he goes into the vortex of souls to try and save Meg's soul before the thread's cut. And I'm like, wow, he really loves her. He'll put his life on the line for her, and he emerged victorious. And I really resonated with their relationship in that movie.
Quote that all the time. What's the matter with these scissors?
Yeah, right. They won't cut.
The rope won't cut.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
Monica, what you got for honorable mentions?
So I have 2 honorable mentions, both from The Simpsons. The first one is I Love Lisa from season 4, episode 15. It's basically when Ralph Wiggum, who is this, this kid in Lisa's class who's like, how do I describe him? He's
special.
He's special. Like he's the type of kid that like, everybody's working on some kind of glue project or whatever. And he'd be like, teacher, I got glue up my nose. And, he's just like, one of those special kids. And so he ends up, I guess Lisa ends up giving him a Valentine, I guess,
out of pity. And it says, I choose you. And it has a picture of a train on it. And so he looks at it and he takes it very literally. And he's like, oh, you choose me, meaning you're my girlfriend. And then like, eventually she ends up like, telling him that, no, I will never be your girlfriend. Like, what are you're crazy. Like, I would never go out with someone like you. And she ends up having this moment when they end up going on like a TV show, a kid's TV show, Krusty the Clown show. And that whole interaction gets televised. So later when Lisa is with her brother Bart, and they're reviewing it, he pauses on the very moment that Ralph's heart breaks when she's like, are you kidding me? I'm not your girlfriend. And, you can see him like, just like tearing up inside. Yeah, exactly.
So that's kind of a heartbreaking moment. So that's an honorable mention.
Very sympathetic episode, though. He does redeem himself when he plays George Washington in like a presidential play, and he has a very riveting performance. So eventually Lisa and Ralph like bury the hatchet, and she gives him another Valentine that says "Let's be friends" with a B on it, and kind of smooths things out from there on out.
Yeah, exactly. And my second choice is another Simpsons episode. It's called Selma's Choice, season 4, episode 13. I'm not going to go into the plot too much in detail, but basically Selma is Marge Simpson's one of her twin sisters. I think she's in her 40s, and she kind of reaches that point where she's single. She's kind of at the point where she's like, oh man, I really want kids. I want to get married and have kids. I think I'm
settle down.
Settle down. And she gets really, really desperate. So they work at the DMV, and they meet this recurring character named Hans Moleman.
He's like an old guy who's slightly senile, and he's got like big glasses, and he kind of looks like a mole. That's why his last name is Moleman.
He's kind of pruny,
pruny. That's a good way to describe him.
So there's this she's renewing his driver's license, and she's just kind of like, whatever. And she looks at his card and she goes, hey, wait a minute, it says you're single on here. And then they end up going on a dinner date, and so she ends up dropping him off at his house at the end of the date, and he's in the passenger seat. And so she was just like, okay, yeah, whatever. And like she looks over, and he's got his lips, like he's like trying to kiss her
like this. I can't reach because of the boom mic. It's like really big and gross. So that magnified by 10.
That magnified by 10.
Use that as a thumbnail for the video over on Patreon.
Just a GIF of that.
Oh gosh. But I have a funny story attached to that. So you take that moment, that particular moment where she like looks over and she's like, ah, and then, she ends up like kicking him out of the car. And so, when Brett and I were first dating, of course he was long distance. And so we would FaceTime at night. And so, at the end of the call, he would, be like, okay, well, good night. And then one day he was like, oh, I wish I could give you a kiss. So he purses his lips close to the camera, and at first I was like, oh my gosh, like, well, what is going on? And then it reminded me of that moment. So when he did it another time, I jokingly took a picture of it. Like, you can take a picture of it on FaceTime. So
like a screen cap.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like a live picture too. So, it would take like the first few seconds, the last few seconds. And, I was like, ha, 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 I caught you. And, I had that picture in my phone. So flash forward to like maybe the next day or two, and I'm at work, and, I'm standing with my boss and like, a couple of work colleagues, and, I'm talking about something with my research project. And, I was like, oh yeah, hold on. I think I got a picture of it. I almost, and, if someone is standing next to you and you're like, oh yeah, I got a picture of it on my phone, naturally, their natural inclination is to look over.
Yeah.
And it was my boss standing next to me. And like, thank goodness I did not, I had my phone, like the photos pulled up to another picture. Otherwise he was going to see Brett's like pursed lips, like that. Oh my gosh. So yeah, that's Selma's Choice.
This isn't my house.
If there's a way you can insert like a video
I'll try.
or a picture of it, like it's just
if you have it, send it to me and I'll edit it in. For all the ladies out there who are our patrons, you're gonna enjoy that.
As he strokes his beard, for all the ladies that want to see my lips.
Yeah, no, I'm just doing that because I like feeling my beard.
I know. I do the same thing.
I'm not really thinking. I'm just touching myself here.
I'm glad you said right here.
Yeah, right here, only here.
He's talking about his beard.
My honorable mentions. My first honorable mention really doesn't have anything to do with romance, but more to do with Valentine's Day, and even then, it has very little to do with Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay.
But because it has such a strong memory attached to Valentine's Day, but it's Batman the movie, not Batman '89 with Michael Keaton, but the '60s Batman movie with Adam West.
Oh, I didn't realize.
First of all, it's not even '90s, and second of all, it's not romantic or Valentine's Day.
So why is it on the list?
It's on the list because in the '90s, whenever you go to school and you get those Valentine's Day cards that you'd have to take to school and give to all your classmates,
I had to buy the night.
there was one time when I found a second set that I really wanted. I don't remember any of the Valentine's Day card sets I gave to my classmates, but I remember there was one year that I found a set of DC Justice League Valentine's Day cards. And I love Justice League. I love superheroes in general. I had to have that set. And my mom was, why? I want it. And she relented and got it. And I would sit down I kept the set. And every Valentine's Day season, I would get them out and turn them all upside down, because one side was the characters that had Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Hawkman, Flash, and Aquaman. And then I could turn them upside down and they would all just say Justice League on the back. And then I would shuffle them around and do memory with them. And then I would actually put them in cards or in the envelopes, not seal them, but okay, if I was going to give these out this year, I would give this one to Stephanie, I'd give this one to Ross, I'd give this one. And the whole time I'm doing this, I would play the recording of Batman the movie. And I don't know, just because it was there was a correlation between the two. So for me, from early 90s to like 96 when Space Jam came out, that was my Valentine's Day tradition. I would, before I even went and got the cards that I was going to give away, I'd play with these. I don't know why, I just did. I love superheroes, and it was a chance for me to use something that I normally wouldn't get a chance to until my mom threw all my Valentine's Day cards away, and I was very upset. But that's something I always associate with Valentine's Day. As for my romantic moment honorable mention, that would be the Lion Sleeps Tonight scene on Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. It's very romantic. Nothing screams romance like 4 times. No, that's not it. My actual tie-in is The Lion Sleeps Tonight, Lion King. Can you feel the love tonight? That nothing screams bedroom eyes like Nala in that freaking song, but that is another great song. But Whole New World resonated with me more so, which is why I had that as my pick. But
shoot, every time you mention movies, I can't keep thinking more romantic moments I want to pile onto the list, like Jack and Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas at the end on the hill. Oh man, that
or
was
Edward Scissorhands.
Yeah,
is that 90s?
Yeah, it is 1990. As 90s as it gets. Yeah, the Hold Me I Can't scene, that's very touching.
Well, if you want to talk about romantic and even kind of sexy, let's talk about True Lies and that tango there at the end of that movie, because
that we're talking about strip team.
Well, I would say that was more romantic. She literally was going in not knowing that was her husband, but I would say the very end,
creepy.
That was a great moment between the two of them. But
yeah, tango at the end.
Some honorable mentions. I would definitely say the fact I would go to talking about Disney with Beauty and the Beast when it was her the library. Like that's a huge romantic gesture, to my opinion, because Belle's all about books, and he's like, you can have it, it's yours. Like, okay, if a man buys me an entire library, okay, like, or gives it to me, like it's my domain, I can be in here as long as I want. That to me was a really huge romantic gesture, especially considering that's not the type of character that the prince was. He was a very selfish guy,
right?
When we first learned about him, so that was huge for me.
Do you have another one?
Why did you think of one?
I thought of one that I think you would put on there.
Oh yeah, Casper. Yeah, that is a very romantic moment. Casper
Or
falls in
creepy,
love.
depending on your definition.
I have a very
Poor
sad
kid never
memory
got to have a
tied to
teenage
Casper.
life. Can you blame him? I love Casper. Like the kid never got to have a moment.
He was a teenager when he came to life until midnight, so it counts.
Yeah.
It's okay.
He got thankfully.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah.
Thank the
Well,
mom.
She was an angel.
Thank
so
the
there you
angel
go.
mom who has
Angel mom.
supernatural powers.
Thank Angel Mom there. So yeah. Gosh. I don't know. There's a lot.
There's a lot, but I think it's a solid.
Yeah, we'll work with that for now.
Yeah.
So moving right along, we actually have a segment prepared for this special Valentine's Day episode because it wouldn't be Splat Attack without our patented segments. So let's roll right into Say What?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
Say what?
All right, so we're doing all these. These are all quotes that I could find to best of my ability. Some of them were based off of episodes we talked about. Some of them are a little bit out there, but I'll explain where they came from. And I'm gonna say the questions so everyone but me is playing. Keep track of your points, and we'll see who wins at the end, just for fun. So I'll say the quote. You guess who says it within 5 seconds. If no one guesses it, I'll reveal the answer, and then go from there. So starting off with number one, here's this quote. Who said it? It's just when I think about her, I start hearing this music and I get all goofy.
I need a hint.
It's from 90s Nick.
Yep.
Sounds like something from Rugrats.
Not quite.
No, I was just like goofy. Get all goofy.
It's Hey Arnold Shortman.
I almost was thinking Hey Arnold, but I thought
It was from the Valentine's Day episode.
Okay. I was like, it sounded something either more like it was going to be a live action show or something like with it, because Hey Arnold, they kind of talked very mature, like I thought.
Yeah. For context, he says that in response to him thinking about Ruth McDougal because he was very fixated on her in season 1. And it all comes to a head in that episode because he tries to go on a date with her, but ends up going with Helga disguised as Cecilia, his pen pal from France. And that kind of leads to shenanigans. So no one got that one. That's okay. Number 2, maybe you just have not met the right man or boy. Maybe you should just give up on jocks and go for the more bookish type.
Dexter's laboratory.
Is it Dexter's Lab who said it or Dexter?
Dexter.
Because Dexter's computer in his lab has a persona kind of like Karen the computer wife from SpongeBob.
So I'm going to say it's Dexter.
You are correct.
So
That was from my Babysitter Blues episode.
So we are doing other.
So 1 point for Monica. Number 3. This seat is saved. For who? Your mother?
Roger.
Yes.
It's Roger Klotz.
Yep.
That's what that was on the Ferris. That was the Ferris wheel when Roger was about to sit down and Doug was, this seat's taken.
Exactly. You got it from Doug's Fair Lady. 1 point, Alex. Things are heating up. Okay, number 4. Well, we had this incredible chemistry. Everything just clicked. You know, the way she looked at me, the conversation. I felt witty. I felt sexy. Those are all disgusting things, Dad. This one's a little tricky. It's from an animated TV show in the 90s from Comedy Central.
No.
Comedy Central?
I didn't see anything on Comedy Central. It's on you, Monica.
The only ones I know that came out on no.
The only one I know is South Park.
I was going to say South Park, but I think that did it originate from MTV and then go to Comedy?
No.
This is a tricky one, and I thought I was going to put it on my list, but it's Ben Katz speaking to his father, Jonathan Katz, from the animated series Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist. Ran from 1995 to 1999.
I never even heard of that.
It's kind of obscure, but I couldn't help but put it on there because it's like one of my favorite
I haven't seen
shows.
a single episode.
Oh, okay.
Is it one of those squiggly cartoons?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's the first Squiggle Vision one
Okay.
before Home Movies, before O'Grady, before Science Court.
Hmm.
Yep. This one's easy, so you better buzz in quick. You choose me?
Ralph Wiggum on The Simpsons.
There you go.
2.
2 for Monica. All right, number 6. Once you get the cocoon all nice and perfect, then you hit the go button. You hit the go, and then, my friend, then you know.
It's Endless Mike.
That it is.
Oh, I was gonna say that.
That was when he was trying to give Big Pete when to move in on Ellen when he was driving the car.
Yep, in Time Tunnel, the episode when they go on the drive-in date. So was it 2 for Alex?
One
2 for
time,
Monica?
Endless Mike was semi cool.
Yeah, right. He was a player in that episode, and also a mentor.
No fog, no fun.
No fog, no fun. Still applies today. Anyways, next quote. Nobody's perfect, but you were pretty close.
That was Ickis.
Yes,
That was the puppet.
that was from the Monster Love episode that I mentioned with the puppet, because he said that at the very end, and that quote stuck with me.
Wow.
Yeah. Next one.
I'm
So
on a roll.
let's do a quick score recap. Who has what?
2.
Megan has 0. Alex has 3. Monica has 2.
That's because I don't
Let's
know.
see. Number 8. Well, maybe she's not the girl for you. Maybe the girl for you is someone you didn't expect. After all, the most beautiful gift can come in the plainest box.
Hey Arnold, I don't know.
Is that a mail carrier?
I don't know the episodes. I'm just gonna guess the show. So
Well, clearly you're on the right path.
okay, so I get half a point because I said hey Arnold.
Character?
Oh, I don't Arnold.
No.
I was like,
It was Helga
Helga.
during her dinner date with Arnold.
Oh,
okay.
he was there.
half a point because he was there.
Yeah, I was like, if you're gonna ask me to get specific, you might as well forget it because that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, if I had known sooner what your choices were, I would have catered these more. Okay, here's number 9. Tell her that you felt the joy of a successful scare. Breathe the fumes of a festering trash and seen hills of foil that glitter like stars in moonlight. Tell her that none of that means a thing to you compared to her.
Is it Crumb?
Yeah, you got it.
I got 3.
He was very poetic in that same episode. I couldn't not ignore it. Alex, where'd you go? Were you upset that I said that?
Something on.
Oh. Very nice. Where's his nose? Oh, there it is.
It's there. I just want to have to pull down all the way.
There you go.
She said it, and I was getting it.
You should have answered it before you walked away because Monica stole
all
the
right.
point from you. All right.
3.
Awesome. Okay, last one. Hands on your buzzers for this. I've got a story that's so incredibly horrifying, but it's not monsters or demons or the usual scary stuff. It's about something that can strike any one of us at any time. And it's always when you least expect it. True love.
Sam
it is.
Oh.
From that's her opening monologue for the Tale of the Dream Girl. That's her opening monologue for the Tale of the Dream Girl.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what's the final score? Hold up your points. Monica has 3, Alex has 4,
0.5.
and Megan has a half.
0.5.
Yep. Very nice.
You have half.
Yay! Thank you for playing Say What, Valentine's Day edition.
Whoop!
Whoop. All right, closing questions, Slimesters and Gackoids. What are some of your favorite romantic moments from the 90s? Could be TV related, movie related, video game related, or heck, it could be from your personal life experience. Let us know at splatattack2021@gmail.com, and we will read it in Mona's mailbag segment in a future episode. We love hearing from you, so definitely write in as soon as you can. Other than that, thank you to all our patrons who have supported us so far. We're so very happy to produce this bonus episode for you with your help. I got one of my patrons right next to me over here. So I'm very thankful for that. And also thankful for MAP and Catherine Jersey. Thank you very much for being a part of our patron group. And, you know, if you love the content that we're producing so far, definitely spread the word. We love building community. We want to see our Patreon grow so that we can offer more 90s Nickelodeon or 90s nostalgia quality content for y'all. So if you know someone who might be interested in what we do at Splat Attack, either on Patreon, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, just let them know. Have them come on over. Tell them what it's all about and why they should care, because we're all about preserving the slime-filled past together.
And if all of you, or if any of you are listening because of the bonus episode that you can only find here, which obviously we will have advertised by this point, thank you so much. Please stick around because we intend on doing a bonus episode every month that you'll only find here. So stick around. We've got plenty more good stuff for you.
Definitely. Yeah. And as a little bit of a teaser for next month, it's going to coincide with episode 16 of our regular Splat Attack schedule. And it's going to be a versus. So look forward to that. Going to change things up with the format.
Oh, I also have a question.
Sure.
When are you going to do an episode without your shirt on?
Oh, yes. I was going to mention this in a Mona's mailbag, but I might as well pull it up right now.
Monica, that email made me cackle.
Let's read it. You know what? Let's do Mona's mailbag. All right, Mona, get your mailbag over here. We're doing this.
These are for you.
You have it already pulled up?
Okay. Here's what Monica writes. This is a letter from Monica. Hey guys, I just wanted to reach out and say how much I love your podcast. I'm a huge 90s nerd, and it's so far my favorite podcast of all time. I look forward to hearing more episodes about our slime-filled past. I have one suggestion though. I think Brett should film an episode shirtless. Again, love the podcast. Splat you later. Regards, Monica. Thank you, Monica, for writing in. I appreciate that. And now it's exclusively known to our patrons that, you know, Monica is my girlfriend. Surprise. So only she can get away with saying that. And because you guys are a patron, I might as well do that now.
Woo! Land this.
So maybe it's not a full episode, but here you go. That's what you want. That's what you get because you're donating to our Patreon.
Aww.
But you know something? I'm not going to do the lower half. This is as much as you get.
You don't need to see the episode for to see me shirtless.
Actually, it's funny story with that email. So I asked Brett, I was like, does Alex know my name? And he was like, no, I don't think so. So I sent that email and I actually had Brett proofread it because I didn't want to send the email and like, I don't know, like it turns into like a Mr. Dink situation where he, you know, like that episode of Doug where like he breaks the grill and he's like, hey, Mr. Dink, I broke the grill. And he's like, you broke my grill. And he like turns into the Hulk. And I didn't want Brett to be like, you wrote that email and embarrassed me.
So I didn't know, but I was curious because I didn't know that his mystery girlfriend was Monica, but I did find the email hysterical regardless. And I didn't know if he had checked or not by that point. So I sent it to him and of course he told me that he had laughed about it. And then I told Megan about it and she said, what is his girlfriend going to think? Doesn't he have a girlfriend? I said, yeah.
Yeah.
It would be funny if it wasn't. And I said, it would be funny if it was his girlfriend. And then when we released Patreon, before we even started advertising, we had a subscriber and it was Monica. And I was like,
it's that shirtless
our groupie. That's gotta be his girlfriend. She's the only person who would know.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like he knows who I am. So I thought for sure Alex already knew like who you were. So I was like, oh yeah, it is probably some other girls. Like, oh,
surprise, cat's out of bed.
Oh yeah, Brett's got a groupie, all right.
Can't see my biceps.
Yeah, he's been boxing.
That one's for the
All the
ladies.
likes just started going fling, fling.
Good. We need some growth here. Come on. I need to juggle torches next.
Also, for the record, we were watching what was it? The episode of the Water Demons.
Yeah, yeah.
Are You
Walsh
Afraid of the
said
Dark
that.
episode?
Yeah.
And then like in the beginning of the episode, it was like, this nerdy kid and this like punk rock kid. I think they were cousins. And I was like, oh my God, that's you and Alex.
Because the grunge kid looked like Alex and the nerdy kid looked like me, even though our personalities were different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, I got something I need to tell you too after this is over. But
Sure. I have nothing more to say. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. If you want to chime in with your favorite 90s romantic moments, definitely get in touch with us. Also, go to the Bonfire page where you can get, shirts that are Team Gatgoy, Team Slimester. You can get the logo of our podcast on there, and
Team Gackoid's in the lead, by the way.
Pretty cool. Check that out. Go buy one, support our show. There's many ways you can support our show. Like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz. Just interact with us, help us grow. We're here for you, and
The
hopefully we
material
can,
of the shirts are
reciprocate.
very soft and smooth. Very comfortable.
These are the premium tees. They're the soft and smooth ones. If you want a little more rough 90s style, get the classic unisex tee.
Classic.
Yeah. It's a little rough, but I like it. It's still good.
all right, thank you all, Slamsters and Gackoids, for tuning in and for our ridiculous antics at the last quarter of this.
Yeah, right.
But it's
All right.
It's Patreon. It's exclusive just for you. You're welcome.
Splat
you later.
Reprise the theme song and roll the credits.
Hard to believe, folks, but it's time to say goodbye.
Nighty-night.
Hey, check us out next time for more adventure and another great legend of the Hidden Temple.
What'll we do till then?
Chill for a couple. We'll be back. You're on, Nick.
And it was time for the superhero to move on.
I declare this meeting of the Midnight Society closed.
Bye-bye.
Oh, baby, oh, baby, oh, baby. Rocco. Mrs. Bighead?